Hello everyone, long time no see. It is a Sunday night, and that means it's time to wind down your weekend with us here at Bat City Comic Professionals. As always, I'm your host Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to talk to you about not just this week, but the last 3 weeks worth of indie and small press books. Since last week was New Year's Eve, the week before was Christmas Eve, we figured we'd save it all until now, and I'm going to tell you we are going to hit just under 100 books that we're going to be talking about today, so you might want to buckle up, get comfy, and get ready because we have a lot of comics to talk about, and I had to limit my picks because it was 3 weeks, so even my picks of the week stack is insanely large, and that was with me trying to narrow it down. So that said, don't forget next week we're going to be talking about our top books of 2023, so come back next week when we don't have 100 books to talk about so that I can come up with 100 more books for us to talk about. It's going to be awesome. And in case you haven't been around at Bat City, we've had a lot of crazy, awesome, great, wonderful things going on, but it's the new year and we're going to kick it off with a lot of great, wonderful, amazing things going on. So just so you know, put it on your calendar now. Coming up next weekend, January 11th and 12th to start with. Nope, those aren't the days. 12th and 13th. That's Friday and Saturday. I will actually be out at Lakewood Ranch's Public Library kicking off the grand opening of the library. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for that library to open. The Manatee Public Library system is so super awesome, and so we will be out there the Friday afternoon and all day Saturday kicking off. Matt will still be here, so the store will be open both of those days, but if you want to come check out the new public library over in Lakewood Ranch, come hang out. I'll be doing comic creation workshops there all day. And then Sunday, January 14th, from 1 to 3 p.m., we are actually going to have Max Fuchs here with us, and he is the artist of Kilmore, which is a series that's been coming out with IDW. It's on issue 3. We love it. It has been one of the fan favorites. We had so many people coming in and picking up that issue 1 and 2, and issue 3 just dropped. So we are so excited to see Max come out, and he's going to be signing copies of the book, and we are going to have copies of the book for sale. You can get a signed copy from Max for free. And then we are also going to have Max here doing sketches. So if there is something you want to do a sketch of, he'll have his sketch pad and he'll be selling sketches by request, by commission, however you want to look at that. So that is going to be January 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. Our full calendar for January events has dropped onto our Facebook and our Instagram. So if you're looking for more information about everything coming up, including the brand new event, which is our toy swap that we are launching at the end of this month, check out those Facebook event pages so you can get more details on everything going on. As always, if we're going to wind down our weekend, we're going to need a wine, and so this week we are winding down the weekend with Toro, which is Pata Nerga Tempranillo. It is going to be fantastic, I imagine, because look at all of these awards. I almost thought I should save this for next week just because it's the award show kind of week, because this has so many stupidly amazing awards. It literally has a little circle that says plus 200 medals, and I'm like, this is like Sonic the Hedgehog, getting the rings or something. It just brings them all in. So Tempranillos are one of my favorite wines, and I'm really excited to see what a super award-winning Tempranillo will taste like. It tastes delicious. That's what it tastes like. That is the cleanest Tempranillo.
Perfectly balanced between sweet and spicy.
Yeah, there's the perfect classic grape fresh wine taste, and then you get that little bit of spice mixed into it, so it doesn't have that overly hit you at the end taste that a lot of Tempranillos do. It is literally quite possibly one of the most balanced wines I've ever tasted. Oh my gosh. No wonder it wins all the awards. Since it's in Tempranillo, it does mean that that's a Spanish wine, and this one's actually imported by a company in Miami, so I love that we got the Florida wine is the one that's winning all the awards. So we're going to be drinking this throughout the evening. If you are I'm going to take another drink before I put this down. But if you are drinking along with us, let us know if you're winding down your weekend, even if you're winding it down with your favorite soda pop or whatever. Let us know you're here, you're watching. We want to hear what your favorite books were in the last 3 weeks and that you had a great holiday season. I'm going to push this out so that everybody knows we're hanging out and we're having fun. So let's talk about comics. Comics time, everybody. I just kind of want to go into like the whole Homestar Runner song, but I'm not going to do that because that's copyright and I don't want to get in trouble.
You can sing it.
I can't. I could sing it.
You just can't play it.
I don't know. There's like rules on Happy Birthday that you can only sing so much of it. So I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't know the laws for that one. But it's okay because it doesn't matter because I have so many books to talk to you about. We're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive into this gigantic stack. This doesn't even count the picks of the week or the in stocks. This is just like what we're going to talk about to narrow this down. I'm going to flip this around. Literally, guys, 97 comic books that I read in the last 36 hours to talk to you about. So we're going to see if I actually really remember what happened in 97 different comics. And we're going to see which ones you love and which ones you want to pick up. So let me know as you go if you see something you like. First up, we have Newburn, issue 13 from Image Comics. And this is, I mean, obviously we're 13 issues in, so you kind of have a good idea of what's going on here. But this is Chip Zdarsky and Jacob Phillips doing a great crime noir kind of story, but with a little bit of a difference because Newburn is actually the guy who works as essentially the liaison between all crime families to make sure that nobody goes too far. And he's gotten himself an assistant who's like, oh, this person's going to replace me. They've been working on a big thing. There was a murder between the families. We know who it was. It turns out in this issue, the crime families have actually figured out who it was. The police might be figuring out who it was. We've got some problems going on here. And we learn in this issue that the crime families are not only not happy with Newburn, they're not happy with the way the situation is being handled, and what is going to happen going forward is going to lead to some very big devastation, and you definitely don't want to miss out on that. So 13 issues in, obviously, there's a trade paperback to get you caught up if you haven't started reading it yet, but, I mean, Chip Zdarsky, you know that you're going to love it. Kara, Guardian of the Realms, issue 11 from Vizier Entertainment. This is the last issue of this series, and congratulations to a small publisher kicking off their very first book, and it made it all the way like an 11-issue run. That's such a huge thing for a new small press. But this is an all-ages story about a girl named Kara who is in fact the guardian of the realms. Her job is to kind of help nature grow and keep it safe and protected. And these little boys come from the future where their world is kind of just losing all of its balance with nature. You know, we've done too much industrialism. We've kind of killed the world. We need to save it. And they land in Kara's realm and they're like, hey, we're going to just take all of your stuff. And they start taking away from the animals and nature. And Kara has to learn that not every person that you meet is well-intentioned, and kind of learns how to balance that relationship as well as saving her animals and her home before it's too late. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue 11 from Boom Studios. This is one of those stories where you have some great character development that's really, really pushed this story along for so many issues. It is all about two people who are in a post-apocalyptic world, and one of them was trained to be a ranger and survive in this apocalyptic wasteland. The other one was not. And over the course of time, they've fallen in love with each other. They've had some really, really great experiences. They built a beautiful world, and they watched it all fall apart. And in the very first issue, we saw Mace, who was Maceo as a child, and he was out in the world being attacked by these people, and he was a very old man, and we got the flashback, and we've kind of wrapped now back to that beginning point, and we're seeing Mezzi and Maceo kind of come back together or apart from each other as this time leads to this future point that we're going to see. And destruction is coming, but I'm really hoping that this love story like ultimately wins out, because they've had just one of the most beautiful this couple shouldn't work, and yet it does, and yet they also love everybody in the world stories, and so I want to see it work out for them. But Jason Aaron is just absolutely killing it with this story. Love Everlasting, issue 11 from Image Comics, and I'm so glad this is back. This is one of my favorite stories. It's got all the feels of the classic romance, like pulp romance stories that you could possibly want, and Elsa I don't know how to say her name, is doing an amazing job of drawing it to look like it's just that classic story. We actually compared it to an old Western pulp the other day, and it was just beautiful to watch it match up. But this is the story of a woman named Joan who wants to find the perfect love, and she sees herself flipping through all of these romance novel style lives, and every time she gets to the perfect person, a cowboy shows up and kills this person before she can get married to them. And in the last arc, we saw Joan's story work out, like if she had accepted the love that she was given, and just how sometimes that perfect scenario isn't what you want. And now in this issue and this arc, we are actually finally learning about the cowboy that has been hunting her and making this work out the way it has. And I am so in for whatever Tom King does in this next round of this story, because I have wanted to know the cowboy story for so long, and now that I have it, I'm more obsessed with this book than I ever was before. So Tom King, as usual, thanks for just being a rock star of a writer. Local Man, issue 8. This is from Image Comics, and you're looking at it right now, and you're probably thinking, oh my god, is it the 90s again? No. But what's cool about this story is it is basically, what if you took one of those 90s characters that was really hot at Image during the time, and you put them into a now comic, and you were like, hey, this is how this really works in this world. And so you are following Crosscheck, who was kicked out of 3rd Gen, which is your 90s superheroes team, and is sent home to not be a superhero anymore. But of course, if you're a good person and you've got the right motivations, you're obviously going to keep helping people. But he learns it's not as easy to go home and walk away from being a superhero as he thought. He's now buried in some major investigations, and he's learning that the people that he put some faith in as a child weren't necessarily the ones he might have been needing to trust, and the people he maybe overlooked should have been better choices for him. What I love about it is we always get 2 stories in every single one of these issues, and so this arc has been giving us the story of the local girl, which is the hometown girl that Crosscheck was in love with, that he left behind, and what's happened with her in the time that she's been there on her own. And so you get different art, different stories in this backup every time. There's a really, really cool thing that this issue does. I'm a big fan of things playing with the medium, and this ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm going to flip this really fast. Ends on a cliffhanger for Crosscheck as he's trying to figure something out, and he's still trying to figure it out as it goes through the ads. And so I love that they drew him onto the ads in the back and all of his thoughts. Like, he's like talking over all of the credits essentially and giving us the story. And I thought that was such a cool way, because it's like, hey, wait, I'm still processing. Like, the book can't be over. And it's such a cool fourth wall break without actually breaking the fourth wall. Like, he's not aware that there's ads going on. It's just for us to see them play with the medium, which is really cool. Terror War, issue 8, also from Image. This is the story of our nightmares coming out of our dreams and becoming giant monsters, much like Ghostbusters, and the one squad of people who are actually trying to stop it. We have a government agency that hires out all these different bounty hunters, essentially, for these terrors, only to find out that the government is, shocker, corrupt, and they're trying to keep the poor people down, and they're doing it at the expense of their worst nightmares, literally. And so this team now at this point is like, hey, we have to do the right thing. We have to make some decisions here. And how are we going to put this fight together, and what are we going to do with it? It's such a cool thing to see how they bring these nightmares together and how these people bond over the course of time. It's a really, really fun book that does the whole, like, hey, we got to take down a corrupt government, but in a completely unique way of doing that. And I think we should see more cool nightmares coming to life kind of stories. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures issue 8 from IDW. if you are a fan of the Ninja Turtles cartoon, you should be reading this series. It is literally just like expanded episodes. You're just getting a little bit more. And this one has them fighting against, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. I'm going to look and see, where is this guy? It's Og the Magnificent. And he is trying to basically hold the turtles accountable for breaking the fourth wall. And they're like, we don't even know what that means. And they look at the camera and you're like, he's like, that thing that you're doing right now, you're breaking the fourth wall. And so the whole thing is just them going against essentially like a Mr. How to say it? Miss Fiddleick, thank you. It's kind of, he has very much that kind of personality mixed with like an arcade kind of situation. And he's just like, if you're gonna break the wall, I'm going to play judge, jury, and executioner, and we're going to get you turtles back in line and just telling your story without all of this ridiculousness. And the turtles are like, we're never going to not have ridiculousness. Deal with it. And so a fun meta upon meta issue for them. Ghost Lore issue 7 from Boom Studios. This is about a girl and her dad, who both were in a car accident, and the two of them have started having the ability to see and talk to ghosts. And these ghosts need somebody to help them pass over to the other side. And the dad, who's always been the pastor who followed all the rules, is very angry about these ghosts for reasons that you learn about in issue 1. And he has taken the dark path that is like, I'm not going to help them. This isn't right. And his daughter is run away, and she's teamed up with some people who are like, hey, we're here to actually just like help spirits and do the right thing. And it kind of feels a little like cultish living on a farm, but like, where is it going? Who's the good guys? Who's the bad guys? We're going to find out, because there is a big war coming between the spirits and the people, and the good people and the bad people. And we're going to find out who's on what side in all capacities as the next couple issues come into play. Because we've got some really big setup coming out of it at the end of this issue. No One, issue 7, as a part of Image Comics Black Market Narrative imprint, which is your massive verse, Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, all of Dead Lucky, all the things. And much like Dead Lucky, this one doesn't actually really overly connect to your Radiant Black world. This is about a guy who was a high-ranking like police chief, and he ends up retiring, and in the process around all of that, his son is actually convicted of murdering a bunch of people, and now a copycat killer has arisen, and he wants to come out of retirement and help fight for figuring out who it is. And he's adamant that like his son is still behind it, like he wants nothing to do with him. But a journalist who owns a podcast is also on the hunt, and she seems to think there may be something else going on in the story. And if you read a story that we're going to talk about a little bit later called Shift, you know that there is a lot more coming into this story, and we're going to see how it all comes into play soon. We're starting to get our first little teasers of how the No One universe might actually connect at some point with Radiant Black. There is also a podcast in real life if you want to follow along with more details of the story. Tenement, issue 7 from Image, and this is a part of your Bone Orchard mythos, which, once again, like the Massiveverse, you don't have to read anything else to know what this is, but this is basically Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino really working together to build out what they started in Gideon Falls, and more so than that in The Passageway and the 10,000 Black Feathers. But this story has been about an apartment unit where a bunch of residents suddenly found themselves trapped inside of it, can't get out, and like the 7 circles of hell are essentially opening up around them. And it's all been because of some old man, and they don't really know what's going on and what this old man has to do with it. But neither did we, and we were all very confused until now, because issue 7 is the story of the old man and what he has to do with the apartment building and how he got there, and maybe, just maybe, why we're all trapped here. And this is, again, the first time that we are going to see a little bit of a connecting piece for any of this Bone Orchard mythos. He actually uses that phrase. He talks about passageways, which of course was the first book in the Bone Orchard world, and it really just kind of sets up that there is a massive universe of horrific things coming our way from Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. So if you haven't checked that out, honestly, like, this is a great place to start. And jumping into that universe. I'm going to take a drink really fast of our Toro wine because it's delicious and I miss it already. That's dangerously good. And I know that's like one of those like things that are on the things white girls say at restaurants list, but seriously, that was one of those where I was just, it doesn't have that strong kick, so you could literally just drink that like the way I just did, where I was like, this is just good. I'm going to keep going. World Tree, issue 6 from Image Comics and James Tynion. This is the story of how the internet is going to kill everybody. Or how we're going to kill everybody because of the internet, however you want to look at it. It is about a group of people who, when they were younger, basically develops a very, very, very dark version of the dark web and kind of hid it, thinking that they had done the best work to hide that from everybody. And we found out in issue 1 that they, in fact, had not done a good job. And now that dark web is exposed and people who are exposed to it are going around killing everybody. And there's like this crazy lady who's helping expose everybody to that. And now they've come together and their job is to essentially stop it. But everybody doesn't seem to be on the same page. Is that being a good idea? So who knows what's going to happen? Major corporations are interfering. The police are interfering in the wrong ways. Friends are at each other's throats. And family members are tearing everybody apart. This book is just filled with all kinds of really bad relationships. And we're going to see how that continues to play out as James Tynion unravels the world one website at a time. Ribbon Queen, issue 6 from AWA. This book is one of those books that really surprised me this year. Like, when it first came out, I was like, okay, like, what's this going to be about? And now it goes to the top of my read pile every time. This is all about a girl who was a victim in a crime, and the police that saved her actually started basically running a brothel and putting the girls that they were saving into it. And they didn't want anybody to find out. Girl gets killed. The new detective that's on that case ends up seeing the ghost of that girl, who is now explaining to her that the Ribbon Queen is coming, and she is basically a woman, a ghostly spirit, who helps get revenge in the coolest, craziest way possible. There's just like a teaser of that for you. And now this detective is all kinds of in the middle of it, and she basically has to solve the problem of getting back at these guys, or clearing it up, or doing something, and she doesn't really know what, and we don't really know what, and we only have 2 issues left to figure that out. But we got the cool backstory of where the Ribbon Queen started and where she came from in the last issue, and now we're starting to piece all of this together in the modern times. And again, with only 2 issues left after this, I have no idea how Garth Ennis is going to wrap it up. And honestly, if he was just like, you know what, I'm not going to, let's keep going, I'd be okay with that, because it's great, and I just want to see the Ribbon Queen keep doing her thing. The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, issue 6 from Dark Horse Comics and their Tiny Onion imprint, which is James Tynion's imprint. This is the story of a young boy and some friends he makes who all have the powers essentially of the Universal monsters. And Christopher Chaos has the ability to see how things are made, break it apart, and rebuild them. And they have been chased and attacked and just all kinds of killed and slain by these people who are part of this secret society that's very much against monsters. And a man named Adam Frankenstein has come to their rescue. And now these kids are trying to work with Adam to figure out a way to stop this cult and save the day. And while they're initial thought is we should run. Christopher tells us in this issue you can't keep running from people forever. This is set up as the fact that this could be the end, but we get one of those question marks and basically get a teaser for the next arc. So it is the end of the first arc of Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, but it is nowhere near the end of the story for sure, as nothing has been resolved, and I cannot wait to see where Volume 2 will take us as we go on. The Schlub, issue 5 from Image Comics and KLC Press, which is Kids Love Chains Press, which is Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates' imprint at Image. This is the story of a terrible man who is all kinds of vile and thinks that he is the victim in every single situation. His family, like, hating him, his ex-wife being his ex-wife, the competition being competition, everything, just he victimizes himself at every turn. And he and a superhero, Freaky Friday, get in switch bodies, and now he is in the body of a superhero, which was stolen from an evil villain who wants his body back. And so now he has to work with this overly confident, egotistical superhero that's trapped in his body to come together and stop this bad guy from taking back their body, but also maybe somewhere in there learn that being a terrible person isn't a good idea. Stegman is doing a great job of writing this. We don't see Ryan Stegman writing a lot, but he has been taking on the whole thing with this, and he's just absolutely created some vile characters that you actually want to see get better. Like, they're not like, as far as like the boys, where it's like, ooh, these are people who are doing absolutely terrible things. They're just people who need to like grow up and accept personal responsibility, and they're starting to see that through these actions, much like all Freaky Friday stories, but it's a fun way to do it. Check it out if you haven't yet. Dust issue 5 is out from Scout Comics, and just so you know, Dust issue 4 also came out. So if you have been reading Dust and you're like, wait, 5, how did we get there? Because 4 and 5 both came out in the last 3 weeks. We're going to skip 4 and we're going to head straight into 5, and we're going to talk about what's going on. So if you don't know Dust, it's kind of your stereotypical young adult novel kind of story where a young girl is maybe the key to saving the entire world. We are in a post-apocalyptic world. A king has risen. The people who have money and are part of the kingdom of rich class people get to stay in a nice city, and everybody else is left out literally in the dust. And this young girl is found by the rebellion, and they're like, hey, you could help us out. Half of them are just like, because you're a young girl and you're a good thief, and I think that could be enough, but there is a fraction of the rebellion that seems to know a little bit more about her, something that only the king seems to have information on. In this issue, we see her actually try to go after something that is going to be the life-saving piece for everybody in the lower realms, but some stuff is happening. Some things go down with the king and his son, who is absolutely terrible. The different fractions of the resistance seem to have some different goals, and you know what? Nothing ever goes right when you go on one of these missions for the first time, and so we're going to see where this keeps going to. I'm really excited because we haven't seen a lot of Scout books that have gone past issue 5 recently, and so I'm really excited that this one's going to keep going because the story has been great. I really like the characters. I want to see what they do, and I'm glad that they're getting to flesh out and build this whole story for them, because at the end of issue 5, we actually just built up more. Like, this could have been the cliffhanger for the end of the arc, and we could go into a whole nother 5-issue arc and still have enough story to tell, and I really hope that we do, because this has been, like I said, just a great story. They've got, we had As of the Barbs and a couple other, like, young adult, almost focused Scout stories recently, and they've really kind of carried, like, a lot of the weight for what's going on over at Scout, so happy to see that. We've got Winter Ember issue 5 coming up next, and it is from Aja manga. It is a Japanese word that I always say wrong. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But this is the story of a guy who's on one of those classic, like, revenge things. The guy who had everything, was the super rich guy, was known for being the playboy, and his family gets attacked and murdered, and he is attacked too, but he manages to survive. But of course, like, he's disfigured, and he goes through all this training because he wants to get revenge on them, and now he's working with this secret society society, and he has been tasked to kill this woman, and it's the only way that they'll continue to give him the elixirs and things that he needs to survive. But he's following her and doing his research, and he can't actually see a reason worth killing her, and so this relationship is starting to grow out of this, and we are going to see where that leads him. Like, is he going to make the choice to just kind of be the assassin that he is hired to be, or is he going to actually make the choice to be a good person for the first time in his life? It's very Assassin's Creed-esque if you're a fan of the video game, except like we're just in the time. It's like if you're not like going to different times through like an assassin portal, you're actually already in that time period. But it kind of feels much like that kind of society moving through the crowd. You almost feel like you can pick which ways you want to go. But if you are a fan of that kind of gameplay and that kind of storytelling, you're really going to like that book. Under a Blood Red Moon, issue 5 from Drin Productions. This is part of their adult side of their publishing line, so this one is not for all ages in any capacity. But this is the story of some vampires and werewolves who are in that ultimate long-term fight for their lives against each other. Except, guess what? Aliens invade. And they're like, hey, we're running out of humans to kill. We need to go after some other people. And they're like, ooh, you know what? Let's go after the vampires and werewolves. And we need to get the werewolves because they're human most of the time. If we could keep them from changing, maybe we could have some more humans that we could eat and destroy as aliens. And the vampires set them up, and now we're in some fights between vampires and werewolves, and an ultimate fight will hopefully come soon between vampires, werewolves, and aliens. Again, it is an adult comic, so there's a lot of sex and nudity in it, so you do need to be aware of that depending on your age range if you're going to be picking that up. Snow White Zombie Apocalypse issue 5 from Scout Comics. For all of you fans of classic fairy tales and zombies, this is the perfect marriage of the two. This follows our classic fairy tale characters. We have Snow White, Rapunzel, and Prince Charming, and it's hilarious because they're both like, wait, this is my Prince Charming, like kind of fighting over it because we didn't give more names to the guys other than Charming. And the huntsman is now with them, and he is kind of keeping them safe from the zombie apocalypse, which is crazy because it also affected like the big bad wolves, and so all the wolves have zombieism to them, and that's what they're being hunted by now. But in this issue, we are in the witch's house, and we have found Hansel. We do not know what happened with Gretel, and the witch is already in the oven, if you know the Hansel and Gretel story, and so they are trying to figure out how to get out of this place, away from the witch, away from the wolves that are coming, and the huntsman says, I'll buy you some time, you guys go. This is the first issue where we actually start to connect the dots, though, between how the zombie outbreak started and who's responsible for it and how they're going to possibly get out of this mess. And so we are starting to actually see not just being on the run away from zombies, but something actually develop in the ways of a plan. And so if you, again, fairy tale fan, zombie fan, perfect book for you to be grabbing because it's got it all. Traveler's Guide to Flagoria, issue 5 from Scout Comics. Like I just said, we haven't seen a lot of issue 5s from, beyond issue 5s from Scout, and both of these books are also going beyond issue 5. I'm so excited. Way to go. This one is one of those books that, again, surprised me so much with how much I love it, because it is extremely sci-fi, and I thought with all the, alien technology and language and weird stuff, I wouldn't get into it. But you know what? I love this book. It is all about a guy from our world who is very much driven by his anxiety, and he gets tasked to go and do the annual story on a guy who claims that there are alien creatures and monsters in the lake in the town. And in the process of that, he gets sucked through a portal that sends him to Flagoria. And now he is trying to find his way out, and he has teamed up with a bunch of people to figure out what the way out of Flagoria is, and he has gone on this massive adventure. It is so much fun. The relationships that are developing between the people are great. He's got a robot that's been following him around named Steve. I love Steve. Steve thinks his name is Harry Jesus Christ because he was yelling when things happened, and now that's what the robot thinks his name is. You just get a lot of adorable things. Very Hitchhiker's Guide kind of mentality, so if you are a fan of that, but that same like comedy meets sci-fi storytelling, you're going to enjoy this one. And again, a lot of heart between these characters, and I really can't wait to see if he makes it back, because the woman that's been helping him has a big connection to the story as well, and I really want to see a happy moment for her. The Children of the Comet, issue 5 from Sumerian. This is the newest Damien Connolly, who did like You'll Follow Me Into the Darkness, and that whole series that went with that. And while we've been following a bunch of the story as a whole, where we saw a team of people who were all the Children of the Comet, who have kind of been doing these different investigations and fighting for things. In this story, we actually just follow one girl, and the story of her trying to return home. We see what it was that happened to her that made her estranged, like, one of the Children of the Comet. And her thing is that when she was born, her eyeballs, like, popped out of her head, and they could follow her around, and they basically worked as allies to her and helps her fight things. And she is attacked by someone very young, and she ends up running away, and she thinks that she's coming home because her mom has been killed. And when she returns home, she finds that the town has a plan in store for her, and watching how this plays out it's just wicked cool. The art and everything really just lends itself to the story really nicely, and this is essentially a one-shot in the universe. Like, if you don't read the rest of the series, you could pick up this issue 5 and just hop in and learn about this character and read her story, and then just hop back out if you're not invested in finding out what else goes on in that story. The Plot Holes, issue 5 from Massive Comics, and this is the end of our plot holes, and I love this story, and I'm so sad to see it end because it was so fantastic. But this is about a team of people whose job it is to go into stories that aren't very good and fix them. They are each characters that were in stories that were pulled out by a woman named Ed, who is the lead editor of these stories. And they go in and they fix the stories, and once they do, they publish them, and then all of the people who were going to be inspired by that story get to be inspired by the story, and all of the characters in it get to continue living their lives. And Ed has saved people whose stories were not going to survive. And one of those people is very angry and bitter about how their story has played out. And so they have turned to the dark side and are trying to destroy all of the stories as a giant bookworm. And they are now having to go through the stories and try to stop him. And they learn a lot about themselves and their team in this issue as they try to bring that all together and really make a difference. If you are just looking for a fun, like adult page master, essentially, this is a great story for it. It's got a fun, almost pulpy feel to it. Just not quite as pulpy as Fictionauts did, which was a very similar style. But this is Sean Gordon Murphy, who did the Batman the White Knight series. And so if you're looking for something independent from him that really just has kind of that same, like, let's play with the world that we know and, like, tear it apart a little bit in a new way, this is going to be a great one for you. I'm going to take another drink because we're about to switch to number 4s. We are drinking Toro. This is good. Again, Tempranillo, award-winning Tempranillo, a ton of awards, and very well deserved. All right. We've got Midnight Show number 4 from Dark Horse Comics. This is the wrap-up of Midnight Show. It's a cute, fun little mini-series. There's nothing cute about it. I don't know why I just thought it was cute. It's just a short mini-series about our Universal monsters. And basically, there's a group of kids who go to a found footage for an all-out monsters attack kind of movie that nobody's ever seen, finally screening in their town. And in the process of the movie screening, the monsters start to come out of the film and into real life. And their whole town kind of transforms into the different places from the different movies. And basically, every Universal monster in the world comes out and starts fighting them, and they team up with none other than Van Helsing to try to stop them. And in this issue, the guy who kind of knows the most about the movie is leading the charge to figure out how to stop them, as Dracula is like, we have to do this curse and we have to restore everything, and I don't want to show you anything else from the back because this is the end, but we have to battle against these monsters and stop them if we are going to save the day and put the world back to right. I love anything with Universal Monsters, so it was fantastic. Knights, issue 4 from Image Comics. I always say, to me, this feels like if you took Miyazaki and he grew up here in America and he made the same kind of movies and stories that he made, but very Americanized, and then you put that story in like the 90s, this is what you would get. So this is a story of a kid who is orphaned and goes to live with his cousin. And his cousin has made all the wrong choices and basically is involved in gangs. And sees this small child ghost, and it's Demon Dog. And you'll kind of see that Demon Dog right there. But it also, he lives with a vampire who is the town vampire, because every town has one. And a guy who is a skeleton, which is basically when you, instead of being a ghost, when you choose not to, when you have something that keeps you there and you don't pass on, you just become a skeleton and you live there forever. It has been a really, really cute story. And in this one, we finally see the cousin and all the wrong choices he's making as a girl from his past comes back to town. And he kind of feels like, hey, I messed up my one chance. Maybe I can put it back together again. Meanwhile, Matt, the skeleton, it's his death day anniversary, and he just wants everybody to spend some time with him. And it's not really necessarily going in his favor. And there's something going on with Gray, the vampire, that's keeping her from her friends and connecting with the young boy who is falling for her. It is all entirely character driven. Like I said, it has that Miyazaki film feeling where everybody connects in these ways, and you're like, that was the strangest thing and yet the most beautiful moment. But you're Americanizing it because you're adding in all the gangs and you're putting it in like our world. It's such a great story. If you haven't picked it up yet, this is issue 4. You get a playlist for every single one, which is really cool. They curated it. Actually is on the back, so if you want to see like the writer's playlist for every single issue, they list it so you can find it on whatever your streaming service is, or they give you a QR code to go to the one where they've already built the list out. It's a really fun way to bring that book together, and seriously, check it out. You want to do that. Destiny Gate, issue 4 from Image and Top Cow, and this is the end of the road for Destiny Gate. This is about a man who gets on a train after a really bad day and is trying to, almost It's a Wonderful Life, his life. He's like, I don't really know that I need to go home. I don't know what the right decision is. And the train suddenly derails, essentially, not physically or literally, but kind of sends him into a path through his life. And he basically starts going through all of the bad decisions he's made, all the terrible emotions he's experienced, and he kind of battles his way through all of that in each of the different rail cars, trying to figure out how to get back to the real world. And in this issue, he realizes that the ultimate thing that he has to face is the rage that has made him make all of the decisions and the hate that he has for himself. And until he faces that, he won't be able to go home. And I'm going to skip that scene because I don't want to spoil anything. But he goes into this battle and really has to just come face to face with some ultimate decision making before he can decide whether or not he's going to end his journey in our world or beyond. Check it out. Like I said, it's kind of a very dark version of It's a Wonderful Life. Ranger Academy, issue 4 from Boom Studios. Again, books I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with and become obsessed with. I am not a Power Rangers fan. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. I am not a Power Rangers fan in any capacity. The best thing about Power Rangers to me was watching my little brother pretend to be one as a child. And yet, I am beyond invested in this story. It is so good. It's got a little bit of that feeling of something like a Witch Hat Atelier kind of story, where you've got a girl who lives on a random moon. Nobody lives there but her and her dad. She's never met anybody else, and a plane crash lands, and it's got 2 rangers from the Ranger Academy, which she's never heard of. And she helps them survive and get back off the planet, and she sneaks away and is like, I want to go with these kids back to this place that they talk about that sounds so magical, and I want to learn what being a ranger means. And now, over the last couple of issues, she's been training, and she has come to the first task. And she's got some friends that they're going to do the task together. And at the end, you go into this giant prism building, and you're supposed to pull a crystal. And within that moment, you are going to find out what color Power Ranger you will be. Because it's kind of, you know, the sorting hat of it all. And this girl is terrified that she is going to find out that not that she's not supposed to be a ranger, because she never thought she was supposed to be a ranger anyway. She's actually worried that she is going to find out that all of these dark dreams that she's having means that she is supposed to be some kind of evil ranger, or something that is like one of the long lost, like, cursed things. And she is very terrified of that. And that is where we are. We are building out this quest. We are going on this adventure. We are learning to work together, and we are learning who we are going to be and what all of that means. And I am so invested in this girl. I hope that she makes good choices, and I really, really want to know what happens. And I want to know all about all of the cursed colors of the Power Ranger spectrum, because I didn't even know that was a thing. Anyway, obsessed with it. There you go. My Little Pony Classics Reimagined, The Unicorn of Odd, issue 4 from IDW. This is the Wizard of Oz retelling from My Little Pony. This is the last issue. It's amazing. It's perfect. As a huge, huge, huge Wizard of Oz fan, and a child of the 80s, the fact that My Little Pony is doing a reimagining of the Wizard of Oz was the greatest thing ever. This issue puts us at the point where we have destroyed the evil witch, and we have come back to the wizard, and we are trying to get the wizard to give us everything that he promised, except, as you know, if you know anything about the Wizard of Oz, the wizard is not a wizard who will serve. So you are not going to get your brain, your heart, your courage, and your home in the way that you think you're going to. And this is exactly that. What I do love about this is that they take it a step further, and they also go all the way back into the book lore. And so we do actually get a lot of the other characters and a lot of the little nods to the different lands that they don't talk about in the Wizard of Oz movie. And so it's just wonderful, and it's hilarious because it's My Little Pony. It's Jeremy Whitley who writes this, who big fan of, because he was working on the Rainbow Bright adaptation, new comic series that was coming out in 2018. And if you are listening, publishers of the world, somebody pick up that Rainbow Bright series and bring it back, because it was amazing, and we need more Rainbow Bright. And it's the 40th anniversary, so now is a good time for somebody to pick it up and let Jeremy keep writing it, because it was so good. That's my soapbox for the day. Let's not act like that's the only one. I'm sure there'll be 5 more between now and the other 90 comics we have to talk about. Midnight Western Theater Witch Trial, issue 4 is out this week from Scout Comics. And guess what? Issue 3 also came out in the last 3 weeks. So once again, if you got 1 and 2 and you're like, what? How are we on 4? That's how. We're going to skip 3, and we are going to jump right into showing you issue 4. And this is the story of Ortanasia, who is the impossible girl, the girl who is still alive. She was in Midnight Western Theater proper, if you ever read it, and if you didn't, it doesn't matter. In fact, I have 6 subscribers to this book who have never even knew that there was a original Midnight Western Theater, and they love this book so much. But this is about a girl who, her family did some curses on her as a child, essentially. She is now cursed to live forever, and she is taken in by a witch. And that witch has raised her for her whole life, and now she has met a man, and she's like, I want to live with this man, I want to do this, I don't want to do what you tell me to do, witch. And we find out that the witch and this man have a very important connection. And we also find out that there is a prophecy on Ortanasia that she knows nothing about, and that she will never really understand if she doesn't live the life that she was supposed to live, where it's going, what's happening. There is so much in this story. You don't have to have any knowledge of Midnight Western Theater, you just need to read these 4 issues and learn that you have one of the coolest characters. We do actually get to see a moment where she puts on the outfit that you would know her in from the original Midnight Western Theater if you are a fan. So I had a little fangirl moment in there, but we get a cool plague doctor in this issue. We get a lot of, like, a guy that looks like the spirit or the phantom coming in there. We get demons, we get witches, you get it all. It's fantastic. Check it out. And that is the wrap-up of that arc right there. The Case of the Bleeding Wall, issue 4 from Dead Sky. This is the wrap-up for this as well. And this is the story of a woman who essentially is like a demon fighter. She's got, witchcraft magic and different things, and she's always called in to essentially ghost bust situations. And she takes on a new assistant, and they go to a place where a man who she has a past with has basically trapped his wife's spirit inside of a house and is trying to force her to stay in there. And now the walls and the darkness are are bleeding and overwhelming, and things are happening, and she's the only person who can stop it. And in this issue, we get to see them actually fight all of this darkness and this evil in some really cool ways. And so, while it is like our action scenes of this story, we actually do get to keep seeing them learn and grow and talk about what they're doing while they fight these demons. And you get to see whether or not that works out for anybody or everybody by the end of this issue. And so I love just how cool she is and the weird things that she comes up with. Creep Show, Volume 2, Issue 4 from Image and Skybound. As always with Creep Show, you are getting an anthology, so you can pick this up anywhere that you want to, and you're going to get 2 completely unrelated stories to each other and to the previous Creep Show thing, so it doesn't really matter where you start. Our first issue in this one is all about a mom and son who go shopping, and the son is supposed to put the cart away, but he's a little brat, and instead does not only not put the cart away, but he is using it to, attack cars. And the store ownership does not take kindly to that, and some things happen that are only acceptable in the Creep Show world. But, it's just a nice reminder to put your cart in the cart corral. That's what they're there for. And then the second story is all about a woman whose family has decided that she is old and they don't want to take care of her anymore, so they decide to put her into a nursing home. And the woman has learned that this nursing home is a very, very not friendly place and that they're not taking care of people, including people she may have known. So she has actually come here with a plan of her own and is going to fight back against these terrible nursing home employees, because it's Creep Show, and magic and darkness and getting your comeuppance is all about what Creep Show is about. Crusader, issue 4 from Mad Cave. This is the wrap-up of Crusader. One of the things I love about this book is that the whole time has been we have no idea who our main character is. He's just some random crusader who got sucked into an alternate plane of existence and is now in some weird world where he's trying to fight his way through. We have no idea who he is. He didn't tell us. He didn't tell anybody, and he still doesn't by the end of the story, which I love. But he has been fighting against this evil guy who's trying to take him to their leader, who is going to use him as a weapon. And they have stolen his little guide, who's been his best friend, and so now he's on his own little revenge mission, and he is determined to go after people in whatever way he can. And he teams up with the people who are known for being the greatest warriors in this realm, and they go on their mission. It's just an action-packed, fun little tale that, again, doesn't have any, we don't know what world he's in, we don't know who these people are, we don't know who he is, and I kind of love it. because we just get essentially this vignette of this guy's life, and we see him do all the things he needs to do to like become a good person or become a bad person, to do the actions that he does. Like, there's motivation behind all of it, but it's like you could put yourself in that role so easily because there's no recognition of this character being somebody. And I think that's why it's been such a popular book for us. It's like we literally have one copy of each issue left because it was such a popular book for us that we're out. That's the last copy of issue 4 even. Hexagon Bridge, issue 4 from Image Comics. This is the story of a group of people, a man and a woman, we'll start there, who basically figure out that there's a plane that runs kind of parallel to our own, and they want to map it out. And so they go to this other reality and are trying to map it in a very interstellar kind of way. And they get stuck in this alternate plane, and their daughter, who has the ability to somehow see in this plane as a child, ends up growing up with an AI resource that she trains to be able to follow her commands and everything. And so at this point, she's now an adult, and she is sending her AI over into this alternate realm to try to see if her parents are still there or what is going on in this world. And the two are networking, like she can like cyber talk to him essentially, and they are communicating as he goes on this adventure through this really, really cool world. And I love the design of the world. I love the way the art breaks apart and the colors that they use. It's just, they're really building an absolutely beautiful world. So again, if you're a fan of something like Interstellar, I think you should check that out for sure. Kill Your Darlings, issue 4 from Image Comics and KLC Press. This is about a young girl named Rose who, when she was a child, had an imaginary world that she always went to, which so many of us do. And she ends up going to that imaginary world and playing out, and a darkness comes, and in her attempt to destroy that darkness, she ends up actually destroying some things in the real world, which sends her to a mental institution. And so she is put inside a place where she cannot reach her dreams, she cannot reach her imagination, and nothing can reach her. And in the time that she's there, her imaginary world starts to fall apart. All of these bad things happen. And one day, one of the creatures from her imaginary world shows up at this mental institution and is like, hey, I'm breaking you out because you have to come back and save the world before it's too late. And so now Rose and her best friend have gone into her imagination and are trying to fight to not only save it, but possibly to save the entire world in the process. Things get dark and gritty for Rose very quickly and early on, but we are going to see whether or not she can save the day as the story continues to unfold. And it has not gotten any happiness in any way, shape, or form. We just keep falling further and further into darkness. Miracle Kingdom, issue 4 from Scout. This comic has that classic pulpy feeling to it in the way that like he is a detective, and it just has like all those classic little moments and like asides that you expect from a pulp comic, except he is a detective for heaven. And so when miracles are performed on earth and they are unsolicited, his job is to go and figure it out. And he has been researching this one pastor who seems to be healing all of these people, and yet he can't find anything. It's like his book is completely empty on this guy, and he feels like there's something wrong. He knows that it doesn't seem to be correct information, and yet somehow these miracles just keep happening and nothing is going against them. And as this issue happens to start, he turns in everything he's found to a council to kind of get them to put a stop to these miracles, but also to give him the authority to do more research. And while they are debating, he ends up doing some sneaky stuff and finding out some more things for his own self. But we also see that all of the people who have experienced these miracles, bad things are starting to happen to them or are slated to happen to them. And he needs to figure it out now faster than he had expected to, because he's got to stop the bad things from happening to good people. Project Cryptid, issue 4 from Ahoy Comics. Another anthology series where you don't have to have any knowledge of what is going on in this story in order to figure it out. In fact, you always get 2 stories in this, just like Creepshow, that also don't connect. The first one is all about the beast of Givaudan, which is a werewolf-type creature that was in France people are still not sure to this day if it ever actually really existed. There are rumors that this monster came in, killed a bunch of people, a couple people saw it, and then it just disappeared. And in this Project Cryptid issue, we get the story of that. We get no knowledge, no extra information. We kind of just see what it is that the story, the legend is, and how it might have played out. Whereas our backstory is all about mermaids, and we are specifically following a mermaid or a siren. They kind of say that the term is interchangeable in this, and she is singing a song to try to break down the walls of an aquarium and get all of the animals returned to the sea, and she is threatening the people of our world in a nice, positive, almost emo-esque song kind of feeling, though. But you get a little bit of both. That one's a lot more of a funny story than the first one, which is just kind of like the historical recounting of the tale. Rumpus Room, issue 4, from AWA and Mark Russell. This is all about a guy who is like your 1%er, and his thing is that he basically, if somebody just dissatisfies him, he locks them in what he calls his rumpus room in his basement. And those people are all trapped in there, and once a week or so, they have to elect a person who gets voted out and goes to die. And they die for a very specific reason, but I don't want to spoil too much for you. And one of the ladies who is now in this rumpus room is a detective whose sister has gone missing. And she is like, the last place she was seen was when she was here and she was working there. I'm going to skip that page because it's kind of spoilery. She's like, I'm gonna go in there, and she goes in there to try to interview the guy, and she ends up getting thrown into the rumpus room, and now she is trying to get out of the rumpus room with a very strategic mission in mind. And in this issue, she kind of starts to break through with that, only to find out there's more to this guy than she was prepared for in this fight, and we are going to see how it plays out. And it's Mark Russell, so it's satire with some of the best writing that you'll get. Tales of Vulcania. This is issue 4 from Scout, and we also had issue 3. This book has been delayed for a very long time, so if you did pick up issue 1 and 2 and you were like, oh wow, I didn't know 4 was out, they dropped 3 and 4 at the same time, and after a very long break. But this is the story of a girl whose entire world was turned upside down. Her village was destroyed, and her family, and so she has been like, I'm going to take out everybody that had anything to do with it. She's been on this mission to go after people, and she's kind of been ticking away at them. And now she's at the point in issue 4 where she's finally going after the main person and all of his guards that are around him, and she is learning the rest of the story and everything that goes into it, and she is determined to just kind of take everybody all at one time. And you get to see whether or not that happens when you get to the end. Very typical Ronin kind of esque story, but in more of a fantasy world than a samurai world. Trakovi, issue 4 from Scout Comics. This is a story that is about a guy who is literally known as like somebody who is supposed to be a superhero, but is also kind of like not a good person in any way, shape, or form. And in issue 1, he takes out like this whole bus full of people, and you're like, wow, this guy is absolutely, completely, and totally vile. And then you find out over the course of the next few issues that there is more to that story. And in this issue, we are seeing the fallout of learning that information that we learned in issue 3. We had a big turn there, and now Trakovi is trying to figure out how to get out of this situation and how to salvage the people and the relationships that he can from all of this big giant mess that's happening that goes back into a very big accident that happened long ago, and their whole friends group essentially of superheroes are all wrapped up in this drama, and it'd be the end of all of them and possibly the end of all of the people of this city if they don't figure it out. And so we're going to see just exactly how they piece this all together and what they do to solve this problem as the story unfolds. Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, issue 4 from Massive Comics. this is about Harriet Tubman, and she's slaying demons. I could not have made that more simple if I tried. But she is helping people through the Underground Railroad, and she is not only getting them out of the South, but she is getting away from demons. In the first few issues, we have only been fighting vampires, and so it leads you to believe that it is just going to be Harriet Tubman against some vampires. But we learn in this issue that there is more to the story than that, because a mysterious man shows up to the church that all the vampires go to and is like, hey, I've got a proposition for you. There is this woman. She is slaying demons. You are demons. Don't try to pretend like you're not. I can help you. I can, help you if you help me. Let's put out a message. Let's get every demon in the world to go after this woman, Harriet Tubman. We've got to stop her. And they're like, there's no way that a woman is the one who's doing all of this. And he's like, well, you can either fight with me or you can die. Because she's going to kill you all. And we see this demon call out to everybody, and we're going to see Harriet Tubman have to take down a lot of different demons, and we get a little glimpse of what that might look like by the end of this issue. Hunt for the Skinwalker, issue 4 from Boom Studios. This is the end of Hunt for the Skinwalker, which kind of leads you really to kind of go watch the documentary. If you haven't seen Hunt for the Skinwalker documentary, this is really, this book is done by and with the people who did that documentary on the actual true story of, allegedly true story, I guess I should say, of the Skinwalker who haunted a farm. And over the course of the last 4 issues, we've seen, all the mysterious stuff that happened on the farm, and we see the governmental people who come in who and the private people who come in and are trying to figure out, like, is any of the stuff that this man reporting, is it real? Is it not real? They can't get anything on tape. They can't get anything documented in any other way, but everybody keeps seeing these weird, crazy things, and it's like, is it happening or is it not happening? Basically, by the end, we know that we know what we know in real life, that maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. There's no footage, but a lot of people say it happened. If you want to know more, read the book, and then watch the documentary. All right, we're about to switch to number 3s, which means I'm going to take another drink. All right. We are going to kick off our number 3s with Godzilla War for Humanity, number 3 from IDW. This book has some of the craziest, coolest art. Everybody that picks it up is always like, oh my gosh, like, it looks so cool. Look at these bright-colored kaijus. But it's a story about a woman who is known for her research on how Godzilla is a protector for humanity and not a villain against him. And there is a bunch of kaiju who have suddenly come out and are all attacking all these cities and all these people, and they can't find Godzilla. He's not coming to help them. They develop their own mech suits. They're going in. They're fighting all these kaiju. They can't stop them. And they realize that Godzilla is hanging out with Manila, trying to keep him safe. And they're like, well, if Godzilla won't leave Manila, then maybe we should still baby Godzilla and bring him over here, and then he'll come and fight these people because he thinks that they're the ones that stole him. And meanwhile, like, all the kaiju are still going bad, and nobody knows why. I know I had to show this page so Matt could see this epic Rodan. So they have to. They're like, we're gonna do this, and they're like, no, don't steal it, but they do because people they're stupid and they make bad choices. And Godzilla's gonna do what Godzilla does best. Kaiju gonna do what kaiju do best. You're gonna get some epic fights. Whether or not Godzilla's gonna save humanity, whether or not humanity's gonna destroy itself, you're gonna find all that out as you continue to read Godzilla War for Humanity. But seriously, you're reading it. It's a great story, but you're really reading it for, like, these epic kaiju. I, like, want to show you more, but I don't want to ruin anything else, so I'm not going to. Read it for the epic kaiju art. Rare Flavors, issue 3 from Boom Studios, and your team who did The Mini Deaths of Layla Starr. This is the newest one from them, and I absolutely love this book. Don't read it when you're hungry. I made that terrible mistake of doing that this week, and it just made me even hungrier. But this is the story of a man who has some supernatural things to him, and he is on his last quest to basically create the documentary of all of the best foods in the world. He really wants people to understand the beauty of flavor and taste, and he hires this guy to be his documentarian, and it's like, I want this kid to learn about, you know, experience and flavor, and he's taken him to all these places, and he's shown him all these amazing things, and in this issue, the kid's kind of starting to get it, but in his own, like, modern kid kind of way, and not in the way that this old, ancient man wants him to. And that really leads to some big things between the two of them. And I want to find a page to show you one of my favorite things about this book is much like a food manga. It actually does give you the recipes step by step as the story goes on. It kind of just breaks in and tells you, like, this is what we're doing, this is where we're at. And it makes you hungry. And it's amazing, and it's wonderful. And Ron V is just such a good writer, and he's just nailing it with that. For those of you who are fans of food manga and you want to know, like, where can I pick up a comic because I want to try comic books, this is your comic that's going to be your crossover point from food manga into American comic books, because it absolutely reads in just the opposite direction of the thing. The Prism, issue 3 from Ablaze. The world is headed for imminent destruction, and the only thing that can save us is supersonic science, essentially, that will reroute the Earth and reroute all of these things going on. And so we need to go out into space and create the greatest supersonic noise possible. And so the only way to do that is to build the greatest band ever. And the way you're going to do that is by bringing all of the world's most talented musicians together. And so our scientist has been assembling the greatest band of all time and has brought them to meet each other. And now they are headed out into space as of this issue, and where they will have all of their experiences. They have never played together. They have never been in the same room necessarily together, because every experience they have and every wrong note that they do is going to all lead towards possibly saving the world. And so they want them to have all of their experiences out in space. And I'm really excited to see how this goes. And I just learned that the PRISM stands for Purifying Recording Interplanetary Space Mission. Yeah. It's cool. If you like music, it's going to be one of those that's just like a fun one that you see, like they're even like talking about like the different kinds of musicians, like they're talking about, you know, the recording that they're going to have to do. I have a feeling that the next issue is really going to dive into some recording information. Genesis 2, issue 3 from Gen 7 Comics. This is a world where we have a guy who is in the future, and the world's been all kinds of messed up and destroyed, and he has been working on some research where he is combining different animal DNA and human DNA and kind of making these perfect creatures for good reasons. And then we have a scientist who has figured out a way to basically track all the most beautiful, like, brilliant minds in the world, and she's done all this research, and it's dangerous, and of course it is about to fall into the hands of the absolute wrong person, who is doing all of this research to build interspecies changes for the wrong reasons. And so he's after this scientist, and she has to rely on her friend, who is the good scientist, who has been kind of in hiding on his own for so long. And he is given a chance to save all of the data and in this issue, and he's not really prepared for being like a spy operative kind of person, and so things don't really go very well, but we're going to see him kind of suit up in a more responsible way going forward in issue 4. The Devil That Wears My Face, issue 3 from Mad Cave. Man, do I love this book. This book is fantastic. And so I'm a big fan of The Count of Monte Cristo. That was one of my, like, movies that I absolutely loved when I was a kid. And this issue just is The Count of Monte Cristo, except with the devil, with Legion specifically for your demon. But I love that the creator said that this book was The Exorcist meets Face Off. It's the best way to describe it, because it is all about a man who is doing a priest who's doing an exorcism during the time of the Spanish Inquisition. And the demon is Legion, and he is trying to exorcise him, and instead the demon steals his body and becomes the priest and traps the priest inside the body of the person that he had possessed. And so now this priest is trying to come back, and he has to build himself up as like this giant count to try to get close to the priest and get the priest to come in, which is like really the demon. The Pope is dead. All kinds of crazy stuff is going on in here. This book is elaborately amazing with all of its storytelling. Seriously, if you just made the County Monte Cristo with demons and priest instead of like a merchant and a rich guy, you would get this story. It's so much fun, and I'm always like, what is going to happen in the next issue? And every time you think you've got like the story is like building towards an ending, they just open it back up again. And so can't wait to see what happens next. We're 3 issues in. Jump on it. You have to read it. It's so good. 3 Days to Death is here, which is part 3 of the Splatter and Western one-shot anthology. We're going to call it Splatter and Western Anthology. They are, once again, unconnected stories. Each one you don't have to have read the last one to read it, but they're all just Western stories. And this one particularly is about a guy who has like this magical elixir, essentially, that he drinks that kind of keeps him from dying when he fights against people. And he is trying to go save a friend who has gone to Death is Here. That's the name of the town. And he's like, I have to go. I have to fight all these people on my way there, and I have to fight these people when I get there. And basically, the second half of the book, half of the words are just the F word. It's just him yelling and screaming at people, and it's kind of hilarious because it is an Old Western, and so it's like half Old Western dialogue and then half like him just cussing at things, and so it's just kind of the most hilarious Western story, but you do get like one of those ultimate shootout kind of stories at the same time. So if you're a fan of Westerns, this is definitely one to pick up. They've all had a little bit of like a supernatural blend to the Western story, so check it out. Again, you don't have to have any knowledge of any of the other ones. Happy Astronaut issue 3 from Keen Spot. This is all about a young astronaut who goes on ridiculous adventures with his little TV friend. And over the last couple issues, they picked up a guy who's like a former wrestling star, but also like a prince, like starman kind of like superhero, who's lost all of his power. And now they're on this boat with these pirates who have stinky powers, and they end up teaming up. It's a lot of fart joke kind of jokes, but they end up offering the wrestling guy all of his power back if he teams up with them instead, and he makes some choices, and things happen for our little astronaut buddy and his team. So check it out if you are just looking for a funny funny off-the-wall, like, almost adult version of a Dave Pilkey book. Slow Burn, issue 3 from Boom Studios. This is that turn issue, and you know how I love my third issue of a story. This is definitely one of those that hits that spot perfectly. In issues 1 and 2, we've been following a girl who stole a violin from her dad, who was a mobster, and we know that this violin is very important and that it's going to have something to do with like the end of the world, possibly, or possibly the saving of the world, but we don't really know what. And it's just really been about like her and her trying to get away from her dad. This issue is all about the dad. This is the story of the dad trying to get the violin. It's the story of him as a mobster, and the importance of everything that he's doing in his capacity. And then it's also the story of her brother who is in the hospital, and the dad is like not good at being a dad because he's a mobster and he's not a good father, and he kind of learns that in this issue. And we get this nice narration that kind of talks about the decisions we make in life as it goes through here, and I love the way that plays over the decisions that we're seeing made by everybody in this story as it happens. So really great turn. Can't wait to see how this and the first 2 issues connect together when we come back in issue 4. Blade in the Dark, issue 3 from Scout Comics. This is this has been a fan favorite as well. This is the story of a Ronin whose village was destroyed, and he has been tasked with protecting a magic sword. His sister has the sword, he has the sheath, and the two must come together. And he has been trying to make his way towards this sword, fighting demons and darkness along the way, and just really getting some classic, like, folklore, mythology kind of feelings from everything that he crosses, and getting a really good, like, samurai story in the midst. In this issue, we do meet this goddess who is a water goddess, and she is super freaky and super cool all at the same time. If you like classic samurai stories, definitely check out Blade in the Dark, because it is a good one for sure. Dwellings, issue 3 from Oni Press. I absolutely love this story. It is super ridiculous in all the right ways. This is, what if you took Harvey comic style art and you made it demonic, horrific? Pick a word there and add it in. But everything has been in this one town of Elwich, which is not the best place to live. And in this story, we, at the beginning, we're following a story of a woman who is connected to some mob people, and we see her trying to escape, and the process that she's making to do so, and her getting caught by these mobsters, and how that works out for everybody in the most violent way possible for these adorable creatures. And then our story in the back is all about, because we get 2 stories in this one, is all about an old man and him recounting all of the, like, things that are haunting him by reliving an experience he had when he was a child, and telling us about a murder that he saw. And it's all him talking to his therapist, but we also get to see, like, the flashbacks of it happening, and we get to learn what actually happened in the murder before the therapist does, and seeing how all of that plays out in this crazy world. I love his crazy dark art drawings that he does. Seeing how all of this plays out in his world is just absolutely insane. And if you like those classic style drawings, but you want something that's adult and spooky, or adult and psychotic, this is great. And honestly, the fake ads that they do in these stories, they always do some on the back as well, are absolutely hilarious. They add to it in so many ways. And again, anthology, so you don't necessarily have to jump in at the beginning, but you should, because it's great. Edenwood, issue 3 from Image Comics. This is done by Tony S. Daniel, who was the half of the team for Noctera. And it has very much a similar feel, but this is a huge world that opened up very, very quickly. We are in a futuristic part, like our world, but just like a few years in the future, and basically demons and witches have kind of taken over, and there's been a giant fight that has bled into our world. And if you're standing in a spot that the bleed over happens to pass into, like, you get sucked into that world where time works differently. And a group of teenagers has that exact experience happen, and one of them has become a demon slayer and is trying to find the love of his life. And over the last couple issues, we have seen his past and his future as he is trying to do just that, and how the other people that were with him and those that weren't, how the world has impacted them as things have changed. And it's really, really cool world building and a really big adventure. If you are a fan of fantasy stories and you want to see a really cool one, this is definitely going to be the one to pick up for sure. Gangster Ass Barista, issue 3 from Black Mask Comics. This has been a long time coming for sure. The final wrap up to this story. This is about a girl who used to be a gangster, and she retires from that life and becomes a coffee shop barista. And one day when she's working in her coffee shop, a man comes in with a briefcase, leaves the briefcase behind. It's got a ton of money in it. She takes that money, and then she gets sucked right back into the world that she never wanted to be a part of, because she's just trying to save her friends from the coffee shop, because everybody assumes that it is one of them that stole it. And she is now trying to piece it all together, and she has to go against the very gang that she left in order to do that, and puts it all together in this issue. If you haven't read it yet, it's only 3 issues. It's completely over. Grab all 3 issues, because it's absolutely hilarious if you're somebody that works in the service industry, and also just a really good story of a woman taking down all of the bad guys, if you want that. Universal Monsters Dracula from James Tynion, Image Comics, and the Skybound imprints. This is actually licensed Universal Monsters, so we are actually getting, this is issue 3. We are actually getting the story that, comes with our movie. James Tynion called it Dracula like 1.5, essentially. But we are seeing so much of what you get in the traditional Dracula story play out. We have Renfield, who is in the asylum and is claiming that, he's met Count Dracula, who's going to turn him into a vampire and all of these things, or he's having these dreams and visions. We have Mina, who just absolutely wants to have that experience with Dracula and wants to meet him and become this vampire-related person. We have Dr. Seward, who is trying to figure it all out. And we're seeing a lot of those traditional things play out in the same way that you're used to from the Dracula story, but with these nice little twists and turns that are really giving us just enough new stuff that you want to keep going and see what's going to happen next. And with art by Martin Simmons, it really highlights that weird, like, what's real, what's not real, what is going on in this story kind of feeling. And I just absolutely love the way these two work together, Tynion and Simmons, whenever they do these dark, twisted stories. So if you are a fan of Universal Monsters, this is actually in your licensed universe, so you need to pick it up and add it to your collection. Nomad, the Unconquerable, issue 3 from Battle Quest Comics. This is volume 2, so this is the the Cave of the Broken Tomb. Okay, I was like gonna say that completely backwards. You do need to read volume 1 of Nomad in order to pick this up. It is in trade paperback form, so you can grab that.
But we do have a customer who picks it up. He's never read number 1.
And how's he doing? Does he feel like he's getting it
Loves
fine?
it.
Okay, good.
One of his favorite books.
Awesome. So, okay, maybe you can read it if you haven't read volume 1. They do a little recap at the beginning of issue 1, so I guess that would help. But this is the story of Nomad, who is the Unconquerable. He is the king of a village. And in volume 1, he goes off to try to figure out what happened to his wife and to live like the obstacles, kind of like in 300 where they have to go out and like slay the wolf. He goes out on this quest for his god and ends up finding out that there is this village of people who were their ancient ones essentially and are in all kinds of trouble, and they challenge him to come and save them. Well, Nomad's son ends up coming in this volume and is helping him with that, and we learn that the people expect a lot from Nomad, and there's not necessarily an easy way out of this situation for him or his son. And while they are protecting that village, they've left nobody in charge of their own village to protect it. And now some of that darkness is spreading their own way. So whether or not they're going to be able to save their own people and the people that they are working to protect and themselves, we're going to find out before the end of that. I love that blue scale art that they use, the coloring on that book. It makes it really cool. The Space Between, issue 3 from Boom Studios. This is the story of a group of humans who have left Earth and are living in a space station, and they are basically like cannot return to Earth. They're supposed to be going to that future home, new home as they call it. And we've been following them for generations at this point, 2 generations. We started issue 1 with a couple who broke the rules to become a couple and kind of destroyed some of the classism. And then issue 2 saw that just because some little steps are made to change doesn't necessarily mean major steps have made change. And we kind of saw where that fell with their society. And now in issue 3, we're following the couple that we met in issue 2, but it's been a decade and they are kind of dealing with the fallout of their own changes that they've made and learning that their space station is not on course. And so it's up to them to do that. And the new recruits that they are training in their role are making some bad decisions. What I love about this book is that it's all driven by relationships. That first one was like, hey, our society has a lot of classism problems, and we learned that through this relationship, and we fought it with a relationship. And in this issue 2, it was like these 2 people came together, from these protests and from these things that they were doing, and we saw how their relationship built and drew bridges in new ways. And in this one, we see a relationship that doesn't work. So much of like the relationships have been like, oh, these two people will meet and it'll be perfect. And it's like, what happens when that's not the case? And we see that in this issue, and it really comes into play to kind of like destroy a bunch of stuff. Simon Says, issue 3 from Blood Moon Comics. This is your dark and creepy for the moment. Let's go completely opposite direction of what we've been talking about. This is about a guy who hears voices in his head, and those voices tell him to kill people. And he does. And over the first 2 issues, it kind of just feels like he just might have a differential disorder where he is just, it's just himself talking to himself. In this issue, we are learning that there is actually more to it than that there's more than even he may know is going on. And so we start to see a little bit of that backstory and where his journey might lead him, and who he's going to have to stand against and who he's going to possibly stand with as that goes on. So this is about to get a lot darker than it's already been. So jump in on that one if you haven't yet. Drive Like Hell, issue 3 from Dark Horse. This is about a couple who rob a bank, and they need a getaway car, and they steal a car, and that car just happens to belong to an upper demon who's not very happy that they stole their car. And so now these people have been driving endlessly trying to get away. They're like currently going against like a televangelist and who is all in on like this demon's actions and things. And in this issue, we find out why the demon is so obsessed with their own car. We also find out that not only demons are obsessed with this car, but a certain angel is too, because the demon may have stolen something very, very valuable from the angel, and now that angel needs it back. And so this couple is going against heaven and hell, literally, as they attempt to just get away because of their bank robbery. And that's all they really want to do. And we learn that driving is the only answer that they could possibly have. We're going to keep going with this. This is not the end. So be prepared to see where that might wrap up in the next issue. Canary, issue 2 from Dark Horse and their Comicsology Originals, which is really just books that Scott Snyder published digitally that Dark Horse collects and puts out, which is cool because you get 2 issues every time that you get one, so which I really love. This is the story of a guy in the Old West who is a U.S. Marshal who has solved a major case a long time ago that everybody has kind of idolized him for, and so he's known for just like taking on like the hardest, weirdest cases. And he is retired. He doesn't really want anything to do with any of that kind of stuff again, but a mine is suddenly poisoning an entire town, and weird, strange things are happening, and they're like, you have to go in there. And so him and a geologist go to this town to investigate this mine, and we learn that there is a lot more to this than anybody was expecting, and it might also bring new light and new information to the case that he's famous for solving. We learn about some really crazy secret societies in the Old West. We learn about some mysterious forces that might be at play here, and you just get classic, amazing Scott Snyder writing. If you haven't read this yet, jump on it. There's going to be one more issue, so it's a 6-part series, but you get 2 issues in each book, so you only have to buy 3 books to get the whole story. Lotus Land, issue 2 from Boom Studios. This is a story of a dad who has been determined to keep his son safe, and his son kind of feels like Haley Joel Osment in AI, like his son might have some secret powers that connect to like the safety of humanity, because everything is on this electrical grid, and it's all program stuff, and the dad was somebody who was very high up in that, and he has gone off the grid with his son, and something happens, and he is drawn back into the town to come and fix it. And in the process of being in the town, he learns that a lot of the things that have been happening in his absence have really changed people and their allegiances and what is going on. And in this issue, he goes back to try to find some old friends to rely on, and he finds out that you can't really trust anybody, and nobody really knows what's going on in this town. And we're going to find out if he's able to keep himself and his son safe, or if something else goes wrong in issue 3. I have a feeling there's going to be a big turn in issue 3 for that book, especially because it is Boom. Red Light, issue 2 from AWA. I love this book. Another one that kind of surprised me. Didn't expect it to be one that I was so into, but this is the story of a girl who is an AI, and she works in a brothel. So I have to be careful about the pages that I show you. I think this one's okay. She works in a brothel, and she is the only AI in this brothel, or possibly ever, that has been created with empathy. And in issue 1, she ends up meeting a young girl who is the daughter of the man who owns the brothel and all of these AI. And she is never seen the outside world, and she wants to get out. And so does our woman. And so the two of them start to kind of craft a plan to possibly get away from the dad and to get away from this brothel. And issue 2 is her dissecting the plan and putting it all together and seeing if it's possible, and just building out these connections and trying to test the waters. And it's so cool because you get to see how she learns different things and how she puts the pieces together, but you also get to see all the emotions that she has and that she attaches to things. It's such a great book. It's issue 2 of 4, so jump in now, because we're only halfway there, and fall in love with this character because she's so great. The Deviant, issue 2 from Image Comics, and James Tynion. It's such a big James Tynion time, as always. But this is the story of a man who is investigating a murder, and he's actually doing it because he's writing a comic book about it. And it's an old murder that the man is in jail for. And he is known for, like, being a Santa Claus killer, like a man who allegedly dressed up and killed a bunch of people a long time ago, dressed as Santa. And in this issue, the guy that's investigating he goes out and he interviews one of the victims, and he kind of is like, what if the victim isn't a good person? Like, what if I don't like, what if he's actually, like, more of a bad guy than the person that's actually known for the killing? And we kind of start to see him piece things together, but at the same time, he tells the guy in prison, like, I'm not doing these interviews, and I'm not doing this investigation to try to clear you. Like, I'm trying to do it because I want to see what my relation to this story is. Meanwhile, things are starting to happen again. It's James Tynion. There's going to be lots of twists and turns. I don't want to ruin any of them for you. Just read it because it's great. Sissy, issue 2 from Scout Comics. I am very excited about this story. It has Maxwell's Demons kind of feels all over it. This is about a brother and sister who their dad is an alcoholic, and so they kind of take care of themselves. And one night, the brother puts his sister to sleep, and then he's trying to fall asleep in his own room, and her teddy bear comes to him and is like, we have to save your sister, we have to go into the imaginary world in the closet where all the monsters are because something bad is coming, and I'm the only one that can help you save your sister. And so they go into this world at the end of issue 1, and in issue 2, we see them start their journey through the world, and even Sissy isn't prepared for how dark things have gotten and the battle that lies ahead of them. And so they must find the ultimate teddy bear, Brambles, who is the only one that's ever fought these bad guys and lived to tell the story, in order to possibly make it through this world and save the little sister. It's going to be a great story that's going to make me cry. I already know. I've already signed up for the tears that are coming, so I'm just here for it. Dr. Corvus, Children of the Abyss, issue 2, from Fantico Comics. This is based on the novel Children of the Abyss. And so it is the story of a crazy doctor in the Victorian time periods who fights against demons with his little rat-type sidekick. And in this one, we find out that there are these zombie-type creatures that seem to be taking over everything, and he's doing this investigation to try to stop it. And in issue 1, we left off on this major cliffhanger where they were all surrounded by these zombies, and in this issue we see how they work their way out of that and how they start to kind of put everything together, only to have it all kind of crumble in a different direction and them have to kind of start putting things together all over again. A lot of fun for those of you who like the Sherlock Holmes, but like a little bit more humor and almost like a Victor Frankenstein kind of character to go with it. So far it's just been a blast. The Sire, Lost in Time, issue 2 from Drin Productions. This is a volume 2. I did not read volume 1, so I feel like you could jump in because he does an excellent job of explaining it. It is all about a guy who has a superpower that basically when other superpowered humans start erupting and going around places, like a suit just appears on him and forces him to go and fight them and basically figure out, are they a good guy or a bad guy? And if they're a good guy and they have good intentions with their powers, they're allowed to keep them, whether they want them or not. And if they don't, then he absorbs their power. And in this volume, his brother is actually, who he hates, is playing him in a movie because, like, the superhero legend has gotten out and the brother is playing him in a movie. And while he is in Hollywood for the production filming, he finds out that an old villain has come to town and is going to, is trying to bring about some destruction in a whole new way. And we learn a little bit more than he does about what that's going to look like. Tales of the Bazaar, issue 2 from Drin Productions. This is also an anthology. This is like each one has just been a different story of something bizarre, quote unquote. And this is a Frankenstein's monster story. He is in the modern times. He's working as a construction worker and he's just trying to make some friends. And he's like, hey, like, I'm on the job, I'm making friends, we all laugh and make jokes, but then when everybody goes home and they're all gonna go out, like, they don't invite him out, and he's like, it's because, you know, I'm this monster, and nobody can accept me, and while he's just wandering the streets, he ends up finding a little girl who is lost, and he's like, oh, I can help her, like, she's in danger, and it turns out, like, her mom is working at this brothel or whatever, and so he's like, oh, well, she doesn't care about this little girl, so I should keep the little girl, and then it becomes this, like, battle, very reminiscent of Frankenstein and the monster trying to, you know, keep the little girl to be his friend, and it doesn't necessarily work out, and it's very sad, moving story of Frankenstein's monster, and if you are a fan of that, you are gonna enjoy this story, or not, because it's kind of sad. Sorry, I'm just like, I'm gonna choke myself on how sad I am about that story. Yes, let me take a drink of the wine. That's delicious. I might need some more. Good cough. Yeah, yummy. Okay. Alright, we've got Thorn, issue 2 from Advent Comics. This is about a guy who is working as a superhero. He lives in, he's the community center director in his neighborhood, and a young girl has gone missing, and he is suited up, determined to find her, and he is doing his own investigation because he knows the cops don't care about anybody in his neighborhood, and so he's gone, you know, live on the news to get some information. He ends up meeting a social worker who gives him a little more back information than she's supposed to, and he finds out that the kids in the neighborhood are being stolen to be human trafficked, and he's not going to let that happen, so he suits up and becomes a superhero, essentially, and starts taking out some people, and we're going to see how far he takes that when issue 3 comes up, and I can't wait, because I just want to see him beat up these human traffickers, because they should get beat up. Issue 2 of The Holy Roller from Image Comics. This is Rick Remender and Andy Samberg. Yes, that Andy Samberg from Saturday Night Live and The Lonely Island. He is writing comic books now with Rick Remender, and this is it. This is the story of a guy who left his home because he absolutely couldn't stand it. His dad was, like, trying to be a professional bowler. Everybody was racist towards his culture. He didn't want anything to do with it. So he moved away, joined, like, Greenpeace, and turns out he has to come home because he's told that his dad is dying. Gets there, the town is in disarray. The biggest bully is now like the son of the mayor, running all the town, beating up people. And he goes out one night, and that guy's still a jerk. And so he beats him up with a bowling ball. And now he's like this bowling ball vigilante. And in issue 2, they come after him, and he ends up having to make some choices for the safety of himself, his dad, and his best friend, who's like, bro, I recognized you from the news. Like, everybody else is going to recognize you because it's kind of easy. We got to, like, superhero you up. So, very mystery men. Kind of feeling like, 100%. But you get those Andy Samberg jokes with that little bit of Rick Remender heart mixed into it. Basic Instinct issue 2 from Sumerian Comics. And yes, Basic Instinct, as in the movie. Sharon Stone, yeah. I don't remember the movie, but I do remember that the Sharon Stone stuff, and she actually does have some, like, there's some little spots in here that bring that up. I'm going to try to find something I can show you. Ooh, this page. We are following a guy in this story who kind of has some information about our Sharon Stone style character. Actually, it's just Sharon Stone. He is dealing with some murders. He's dealing with some art. He's dealing with possibly her. He is very much in a situation where he needs to stay hidden. He's an art dealer. There was some murders at his gallery during one of his shows. And he makes a choice to go and actually just interact with this person that he probably shouldn't. And he may or may not make it out of this situation intact. If you are a fan of Basic Instinct, you're going to love it. This is very much like the American Psycho one, where it's not a retelling of the story that already exists in that movie. It's kind of like a side story, prequel, requel kind of situation. So, honestly, like, I love the American Psycho one was going to be the one that everybody was really, really into. And it's actually been that the people who have picked up Basic Instinct are like, no, actually, this is the movie, like, side story that I never knew I always wanted. So, check it out, honestly. It's actually just been a good story, even if you don't know Basic Instinct. The Ministry of Compliance, issue 2 from IDW Original. I am really enjoying this story. I'm, again, not a huge sci-fi fan, but this one has definitely been one that I'm falling in love with as a story. This is all about a group of, an alien race, essentially, that's come to live on Earth, that's been planning their takeover of our planet, and they are each ministry, like they have all their ministries just like any other government, and we follow the leader of the Ministry of Compliance. So basically, if somebody falls out of line, she takes care of it. She destroys them and puts them back in line, or kills them, whatever. I've heard it both ways. And so in issue 1, we find out that something has happened on their home planet, and there's been some kind of an uprising, and now all of their communications are cut off, and nobody knows what's going on. And they kind of have to just figure out, like, are we still doing this? Are we on our own? Where is this going? And so she's organized some meetings. She's going after some people, and she's got her own new assistant that she's taken with her. And we are, in this issue, doing some interrogating, and the assistant has to learn to, like, step up and make some tough choices in this. And the characters and the way these characters are connecting with each other, the different, like, underhanded pieces of the puzzle, which I'm not going to show you any of that, and the way these ministries work has just been a really, really good story. And you never, ever, ever know that they're aliens or there's anything about aliens. Like, there's almost no sci-fi feel to this story because it's all just character-driven, like, moving forward. But yet, at the same time, like, that's all in the back of your mind at all times. So, it's really cool. Time Traveler's Tale, issue 2 from Dark Horse. This is an all-ages book, for sure. Honestly, this is one you want to give kids more than anything. It is a story about a little boy who has the ability to travel through time, and his pocket watch, which is what helps him travel through time, has gone missing, and he's having all these problems with it, and he ends up in the Victorian time periods with a bunch of, like, the little street kids, and they're like, oh, we can help you. We know where all of the pocket watches that get, like, a massive room of pocket watches are. And we see these kids kind of help him break into this party and get into the pocket watch room of this man, and we kind of see the connection pieces. And you get this cute little love story at the same time, and it's so great. Again, the great one for all ages, absolutely fun and entertaining, and always just seems to be very heartwarming. All right, we got number ones before we get to our pick of the weeks. We're going to knock these out really fast. We've got Charred Remains, issue 1 from Mad Cave. And you'll notice this has some really cool Andrea Moody art on it. This is the story of a woman who, when she is a young child, she sees her house burns down, and she sees in the fire and all of the things that are happening, she sees this man that she calls the this fireman, and he's just this massive monster to her, and he kind of haunts her dreams forever. And then when she gets to adulthood, she's still very much not into fire, and she's working with all of these people in her community, trying to keep them safe, trying to make sure fires don't happen. But at the same time, she is also secretly hunting for this fireman. And there is a giant, massive neighborhood fire, and there we see these firefighters kind of putting it out, and something happens with them, and I don't want to tell you what. That kind of leads us to hey, there's something more going on here. And then we kind of see her investigation of the case. This Andrea's art really, really works really well for the flames in here, because it keeps everything kind of masked and we don't really know what's going on yet. So I really love the way it plays out in that. But this is supernatural dark story meets backdraft kind of situation. So definitely grab it. It's an issue 1, and we're celebrating 10 years of Mad Cave this year. So this is the year. Buy your Mad Cave books if you haven't already. Ooh, you just poured more wine, so I'm going to take a drink. That is so good. Borealis, issue 1 of 3 from Dark Horse Comics. So, as expected, with the bright colors on the cover and the lights and the name, this is about the Aurora Borealis. But it is also about a woman who is a detective up very, very far north. And she is gone away from home. She doesn't want to be in her hometown anymore, but some stuff happens, and they're like, hey, you got to go home. You're going to get transferred. You're going to go work over there. We can't have you on this vice patrol anymore that you're working on, because you're just you crossed a line. And so she ends up going back to her hometown. She's supposed to be kind of laying low, but of course immediately she figures out that there's some weird stuff going on. And that weird stuff is kind of connected to a lot of the stuff that she was working on in the other town, a lot of some drug issues and mobster kind of situations. But she also learns that there is essentially this curse on her family, maybe a blessing depending on how you want to look at it, that's connected to the Borealis, and we are going to see how that impacts her and her hunt against these people, and what is coming for her and what is hiding beneath those lights as the story unfolds. Can't wait to see it. I love the Aurora Borealis. Spellweaver, issue 1 from Keen Spot. Really, really stoked to see how this one plays out. This is the story of a girl who is working as a rug maker, essentially, in a kingdom, and she delivers this rug to the prince's mom, who is not the queen. She's she's gone crazy. Everybody thinks she's dead, so she's in hiding essentially, and she ends up delivering this rug to her, only to find out that the disease that she has is this one that has been striking people across the kingdom, that is making them kind of like zombie vampire type people. And we learn that our young rug maker is not just a rug maker. She has some special powers that nobody seems to know where they come from. Nobody knows how she got them. Nobody even really knows who she is, except for her partner, who knows, in rug selling, who knows that she is from his village, but doesn't really know much else. And so now the prince and that young man and her are going to go on an adventure to figure out what exactly is happening in their kingdom. Total Party Killer. This is from Scout. It is a one-shot, and it is hilarious. And completely a great perfectly circular story. It starts out with a group of people who are looking for a new person to join their party. They've got the classic, quest going on, and they need one more adventurer. And they have all these people come in who are just like the perfect candidate, but they decide to go with this young girl, and so she comes on as like their quest assistant, and she's not very good. She's very shy. She always does the wrong thing. She makes some terrible choices, but they are on their quest to destroy this dragon mother who is causing all kinds of problems in the village, and they have to learn to bond together as a team, and she has to learn how to fight if she's going to make it through and actually be a benefit to the team. And again, totally fun book, great adventure, and some fun little twists and turns that were absolutely fantastic. We have 2 new issues of the 13 Origins. These are one-shots that are opening up the universe that we are going to see in the Chispa universe from Scout. So Chispa is their new Latin American imprint, and the 13 Origins is all about the superhero world that they're going to be building. So we've got 2 that are happening right now, which one was The Wake and one was Pyroclast. So we're going to start with The Wake. This is the story of a teenage girl who on her 18th birthday really wants to go and hang out with her friends. And of course her family's like, no, you're not going to do that. You have to stay home. That's not the way this is going to work. She's a big track star. She ends up waking up, like, feeling really sick, coming home, finding out that, like, she might have developed some powers that suddenly arose on her birthday, and the only people who notice immediately are her little brothers, and they kind of help her and get excited about her potential to become a superhero. And then, of course, we get to see whether or not the family accepts that and where that's going. The other one is Pyroclast, which is the story of a boy who also is hitting that 18th birthday, and he finds himself having the ability, whenever he has an emotion too strong of any kind, he kind of turns into kind of like a mixture of Pyro and the Thing. Like, he turns into a giant rock monster, but he's still on fire. And he ends up learning that he needs to figure out how to use that in order to help. What I love about it is these are all culturally based family stories, and so in every 13 origin stories we've had so far, it has that warm moment of like, hey, like, you're a chispa, you're part of the family, you have this power, like, we're going to help you train and kind of build up. And so we kind of see in this one like a little bit of a hint of the possibility of everybody having like this power and coming together. And so we're building a really big universe that's going to come out of Scout and their Latin American imprint, and I'm really excited to see it. The Maze Agency, issue 1. This is also from Scout and is another one of those classic pulpy detective stories put into the modern world, and it follows a woman who is a detective and her boyfriend is a journalist, and she is hired to work security on a new slasher film called Shriek. And they are on the sequel to Shriek, and they're supposed to be protecting everybody on there, and we see murders start to happen, and she's trying to figure out who it is, but he's a really great detective because he's got those journalism skills, and so he starts to accidentally kind of put things together, and the two of them work to solve this case and kind of figure out what is really going on the set of Shriek. And whether or not there's a real killer or it's something more. The Agent, issue 1 from Ablaze. This one took me in a lot of different directions that I didn't really expect. So it starts out as like your regular like Jason Bourne's secret agent kind of story with a woman who is on a case, and she's like going through the town. She's trying to catch this guy. You think he's just dealing drugs or something, and she's like following him, trying to get a stop on it. And she ends up following him into the subway. And in the process of trying to stop him, something weird happens, and there's this big shift. And suddenly what she's dealing with isn't quite what she thought she was. nor is it what we thought. And we start to see this special dark underside of things that is coming out. And so we're not just getting just a regular super agent story, but we're going to see some supernatural elements that come into play to this. You kind of get a little teaser of it, but I don't want to show you too much of the end. In her jacket, you can kind of see the little supernatural pieces that they add to this puzzle as the story unfolds. Rad Wraith double feature issue 1 from Scout. So issue 1 of this book came out a long time ago and then disappeared. So now it's back, and this double feature actually contains that issue 1, which may be hard to find. I think we actually have issue 1 still. But it's got that issue 1 in it, but it has the issue 2. So you're finally going to get to keep going with the story, for those of you who started it. And so if you don't know, Rad Wraith is the story of a young boy who wants to be a cool skateboarder, but the older skateboarder cool kids don't include him, and they're like, hey, if you want to join our skating gang, you can totally come out with us. But it's actually like a trick, and they're bullies, and they're mean, and some bad things happen, and now the kid is essentially like the host for the Rad Wraith, who is a skateboarding zombie ghoul guy that comes out and destroys bad people. So in issue 1, that's kind of like where we leave off. And issue 2 shows us what the Rad Wraith is going to do to get to enact his revenge. And I'm only going to show you 1 page of that because you really got to just get into this book. It's crazy art, it's violence, it's dark, it's creepy, and it's amazing all at the same time. I love this corner box that they did because it's got approved by no one and like the anarchy symbol, which is super cool. And then they've got it says skate and destroy instead of like the typical skating stuff. So super cool. I know you want that. Quested, the 4 Hinges Adventure from Massive. This is a one-shot. If you've never read Quested, that's okay. Honestly, I think you should read this before you read Quested, just to see if you like the characters and get into it. But Quested is all about a guy named Jinx who goes on these quests, and he's really bad at it. He is kind of like whatever the cheat code is to try to get like the reward as fast as possible. That's what he's going to do. And so in this issue, he wants to buy something at an auction, and he loses the auction to somebody who has more money, and he's mad about it. And that thing is, he thinks it's the copy of a book that he wants, and like his friend is like, dude, you already have that issue, that volume of the book. And he's like, I don't think I do. And he gets really mad that he loses. So he hires 4 questers to go out and tells them that he wants them to retrieve something that was stolen from him, from this evil warlord. And so these guys all go and fight his battle for him, essentially, and they have to do his dirty work and see and steal that book back for him. And it's hilarious. If you're a fan of I Hate Fairyland, Quested is a great companion kind of style story for you. It's the closest to I Hate Fairyland that you're gonna find from somebody else. So if you need something else, that's the one to go to. Machine Girl and the Space Hell Angels, issue 1 from Alien Books. Alien Books is Valiant. If you are a Valiant fan and you've been like, where are my Valiant books? What happened to Valiant? They're back. They're called Alien Books now. Alien Books is doing Valiant and some other stuff, but that is where your Valiant books are going. So Exo Man of War also came back this week, and I sold out of it, so I don't have it. But Exo Man of War, the Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, and Liam Sharp that was going on last year that everybody was super into, it's back. It picked up right where it left off, but it's from Alien Books now. So know that, Valiant fans, look for Alien Books in your previews catalog if you're trying to find your Valiant books. They're also going to be doing things like this, where you're going to get essentially like an oversized square-bound book and you're going to get a lot of stories. So you're going to see a lot of Valiant books that are coming out as one-shots in these big square-bound oversized. A lot of them are going to be $9.99, but you're going to get the whole story all at one time, or you're going to get like 2 or 3 issues instead of having multiple small issues of your story. And so this is going to be, this one's $9.99, but it's basically like half of the story, and you're going to get the other half in another issue. And this is Machine Girl, who we've seen before, and she's now on a new adventure. And she is out at a bar with a friend, and a person shows up and is like, oh my god, I'm being chased by somebody, I need your help. And she's like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't know, do I need to get involved? And they're like, yeah, you do. And she's like, okay, so whatever, I like fighting people. So she ends up taking this girl in to help her, and the little capsule essentially that she's carrying around ends up fighting these bounty hunters, taking the capsule, trying to save this girl, finding out that, you know, she needs to protect it. And so she takes it on, only to find out what's inside of it. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, because you have to figure that on your own. But it is very precious cargo, and she is like, I'm going to keep this thing safe. I'm going to deliver it to where it needs to go. Ends up in some battles. Some old foes show up. Some new foes show up. Lots of fighting. Some space hell angels kind of situation, meaning we get a biker gang in space that may or may not be the good guys. We're not really sure. But if you're just looking for a really good time in that, like, classic Machine Girl way, this is going to be a book for you. Again, $9.99, because you're getting a square-bound, oversized issue. It's number 1 of 2, which is going to be a big thing for Alien books. So you're going to be able to get 2 issues or more at a time, essentially, in these square-bound stories for $9.99. Shift. This is a one-shot from Image. It's a part of your Massive-verse universe, so your Radiant Black world. It actually has a 5-part story in here. There's 5 chapters, and it is the story of essentially who we've been seeing kind of run through our Radiant Black world. It is a guy who goes by Guy, who figures out some tech that is essentially the same as the Radiant universe, and he is kind of trying to go against the Radiants, using their power, stealing it from them, and hires out his own force of people to do crime and bad things and go against the Radiants and the other heroes in that world. The interesting thing about this is that I'm going to show you this last thing really quick. They actually put the stories, the chapters that are in this, they put in order of where they fall in the Radiant Black universe. So if you are somebody that's keeping up with the entire Massiverse and you're reading this is going to show you, like, essentially where it all falls into the storyline to help you out, which was really cool, because I was like, oh, I know this character, and I feel like I know this part of the story, and you do, because it falls into that Massiverse in line. You can read this and not know anything about Radiant Black, but you're not going to know, like, why that timeline matters. But it's just essentially getting your villain backstory in a whole new way. So,
how many writers does it have?
It's got a couple different. Well, Kyle Higgins wrote it, but it's got a bunch of different artists, and so like each volume essentially has different artists, because it's like broken into the chapters that go with each story. Next up, Book of Butcher. This is a one-shot that goes with your Something is Killing the Children universe. If you've been reading the House of Slaughter story, this is going to be, connects to that, but it also connects to your Something is Killing the Children world. Much like the Book of Slaughter gave us a lot of information last year around this time, this does the same thing. So basically we see them training a new Black Mask, because if you've been keeping up with Something is Killing the Children, you know they need Black Mask really bad. So they're training a new Black Mask, and they send her to train at the House of Butcher, which we've been seeing in the House of Slaughter universe. And while she's there, they tell her the best thing you can do is read all these books that are around and learn some information. And so then it kind of just dives into the Book of Butcher, which gives us a lot of monster information that we haven't seen in the Something is Killing the Children universe. So it kind of gives us, hey, this is what some of these creatures we fought are, and these are some of the creatures that are probably going to come up in the way. And this whole thing was like, you're going to learn a lot about different monsters and different beings, and you're going to learn a lot of things in the House of Slaughter. And the most important thing you can learn is that you can't trust anybody in the House of Slaughter, and that the people in charge of all of us are corrupt, and that the biggest monsters that we might ever face are the monsters that are in charge of putting us in the positions that we're in, which is what I've been waiting for. So I'm really hoping that this next round of House of Slaughter and Something is Killing the Children is really going to give us that big internal battle that I've been waiting for. I found one in my damages. It is very much damaged on the back, so I don't actually have any of these to sell unless you don't mind a damaged copy. But Duke came out this week. This is issue 1 of Duke from Image Comics, Skybound, part of the Inner Dawn universe. And this is, Duke appeared in Transformers issue 2, and we got to see what that impact was coming out of that. You know, in issue 2 of Transformers, Duke gets attacked by a Decepticon while flying through the air, and this is him going to the, you know, the government and saying, like, hey, there's monstrous robots, like, all this stuff is going down, what are you going to do about it? And they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. There are no monstrous robots. There is no such thing. You're crazy. And so he kind of gets put on leave and starts doing his own investigating, and they're like, this is a bad thing because Duke is the best trained soldier in the entire military, and if he's going to go after this, like, he's going to find all of the information, and he does start to find some things. And so this is really setting up what is going to be going on in that G.I. Joe Transformers crossover in a whole big way. So if you are in there and you're ready for it, get on that. All right, we got some picks really fast. We've got Pine and Merrimack, issue 1 from Boom Studios. I'm very excited about this. I'm a big Kyle Starks fan, and this is the newest one from Kyle. This is about a couple. The woman witnessed the possible murder, the disappearance of, I guess I should say, her little sister when she was young, and it caused her to want to be a detective. And she grows up and becomes that detective and realizes that she doesn't want to have anything to do with murder cases. But she finds a great man who's a boxer to become her husband, and they start their own detective PI service back in their hometown, and it becomes all about just dealing with couples and, marriage problems and things like that. Their relationship, honestly, is what's driving my love for this book. Kyle Starks does a really good job with that. If you read I Hate This Place, he instantly built a really great relationship between that couple as well. And I really want to see how, as they get trapped into a case that they didn't want to or didn't intend to take on in the way that they did, how their relationship is going to keep them stronger and so much more adorable together. They're so cute. I can't wait. This is going to be a great series. Grab that one if you love any of those things, detective stories or just cute couples. Beyond Real, issue 1 from Vault Comics, which is more than likely free at your local comic shop. It was free. It is free at Bat City. If you have not picked one up yet, you can come grab a free copy of issue 1, cover A of this book, thanks to our amazing friends at Vault who made this free for us, so it can be free for you, so you can try out a new book. We love that. This story is about a couple who the man in the relationship is like, I believe that the world is all just a computer program. Nothing is real. It's all a simulation. And she's like, I'm sure you do. Like, I don't really agree with that. But like, I think this and this. And they kind of have this whole conversation about it. And then there is an accident that occurs. And suddenly she is able to see the world in the way that he described it. And there's some crazy stuff that is going to go on. I don't want to tell you too much because that world that she starts to see is insane. For people who are fans of The Matrix and fans of anything that Zach Kaplan has ever done, like Forever Forward or Mindset, and you like his twisted stories and you like relationships and that like idea of like, I have to get back to this person and I have to get to them in this whatever way possible, this is going to give you all of those things. What's really cool is you get different artists working on the different types of worlds. Another really cool thing, if you subscribe to this book at Bat City and you pick up issues 1, 2, and 3 for sure, you actually get entered in for a chance to win a signed copy of Beyond Real #1. I'm so excited to be able to give that away. Thank you again to Vault for making that happen. It is signed by artist and writer. So you are going to want to grab a copy. We have 2 of them we're going to be giving away, so subscribe to the book and pick up through issue 3, and you are signed up automatically to possibly win that book. Oh my gosh. Animal Pound, issue 1 from Boom Studios, and possibly some of Tom King's greatest writing that he's done so far in just 1 issue. This is an Animal Farm retelling. It's all about some cats and dogs who are in a pound, and the cats, an old cat tells the cat that they are always going to be prisoners, that they're never going to get away, and that they need to do something, because if they don't get out, the humans will just continue to put them down, and they need to fight back against the humans. And so we get our Animal Farm story of the cats and dogs standing against the humans and kind of trying to take it back. And you essentially get all of that in this first issue. And so what we're going to see as the story goes on is those dynamics of how that is going to play out when, you know, much like Animal Farm, like once you take over and you get it away from the humans, what does that really mean and where does that go? And there's the wild card in that this pound has bunnies, and everybody keeps saying that they need to keep the bunnies included, but nobody actually talks about what the bunnies are going to bring to the table. So I can't wait to see what that actually means. But seriously, Tom King said this is some of the best work he's ever done, and he is not kidding. It is fantastically written, for sure. Mortal Terror, issue 2 from Dark Horse. We've got all the Dracula stories that are coming out right now, but I am still obsessed with the fact that this book flips that on its side. This is what if instead of everybody being vampires or humans and wanting to fall in love with a vampire or wanting to become a vampire, what if everybody was a vampire and Dracula was the human and Renfield wanted to become a human, and there were people who were talking about possibly being humans, and we've got a world where everybody has lived like in this specialty city and underground, and now there's this resistance outside that's trying to destroy them, and Dracula is the leader of it, maybe, or maybe he's just this human that Mina is drawn to, and we're getting beat for beat almost the Dracula story, but with little twists and turns, because now we're all vampires. And so I love reading this at the same time as the Universal Monsters Dracula from James Tynion, because you get to see what it would look like if that exact story was told from the opposite point of view. And it's been so fantastic. The writing on it is excellent. It feels very Bram Stoker, but again, just completely reversed. And you get these awesome Francavilla covers, which sold. Mom Breaks the Internet, issue 2 from Scout Comics. This is about a woman whose daughter is trying to go against these ridiculous rules that are being put on teenagers and the world by the government. And she ends up getting arrested, and unfairly so, and the mom comes and bails her out, and the mom is like, you know what, this is ridiculous, and the world is ridiculous. And then the mom loses her job because of some stupid, terribly misogynistic reason, and so she calls all her friends together, and it's like, hey, we're actually all of the world's greatest computer scientists, and we've been doing programming. We basically built the internet for the world, and we've been running it essentially. What if we took it back? Because you know what, just like we're moms, and when our kids are misbehaving, we put them in timeout. Let's do that for the world. We're going to take away all of the bad pieces of the internet. We're going to take away all the corporate connection to the internet. We are going to essentially destroy everything that we don't deem to be okay. And they do just that, and it's awesome, and I love it. And I love the way these moms are fighting back, and just the message that comes with this comic. It's so good. If you haven't read it yet, grab 1 and 2 because they're out now. This is Matt's pick of the week and pick of all the time, and so I had to bring it.
And customers. And
customers. Seriously, this is, once again, our last copy. We have so many fan favorite small press books, which thank you, Bat Fam, for being so willing to listen to us and grab small press books and finding so many on your own. There's so many that I learn about from you guys, too. But this is Fun Guy, issue 2 from Scout Comics, and I love the way that Matt describes it, because it is essentially Game of Thrones with mushrooms. You've got all
samurai.
And samurais. You've got all these different kinds of mushrooms who are essentially living in a Game of Thrones kind of world, and you've got your typical Ronin guy who's out there who's like, I'm a sword for hire, essentially, for whoever pays the most and needs the most. But you have a female mushroom who has been on the run because of some things that happened to her. And now she is like, I need to return to my home. And we don't really know why she feels so adamant about it, but we get to see some little glimpses of what that home is and, who might be waiting for her when she gets there in this issue. This built out a massive universe very quickly. It's got a map. And I think that any book that has a map, you're going to get some major world building. And I think, there's a picture of part of the map right there. But they just have, it feels like Game of Thrones. Like, they show you a little bit of a piece of it, and then they're like, okay, now we're going to go into that. And then it's like, ooh, I don't know if I want to fight against these people, and I don't know why these people are the way they are, and, like, what's going on. And it's like, ooh, we could go into the forest and we could fight against these ghosty mushrooms, or we could go with these pirate mushrooms on this airship. And it's like, it's absurd in all of the best ways, and it's fantastic. And I always want to bring, if I have like a great suggestion from Matt, I always want to bring one for you guys. So this is it. Fungi. We've already gone through issue 1 twice. We've done a reorder and sold through all of that. So if you're looking for something completely different for yourself, or if you're a store and you're looking for something off the wall that your customers can fall in love with, that has that wonderful storytelling and great art, put some faith into Fungi, because it's great. And speaking of great world building, the last one is The Hunger in the Dusk, issue 5 from IDW's original imprint, and G. Willow Wilson, who never, ever, ever steers you wrong. So I feel like we know that this is going to be good, but this is the story of a world where the orcs and humans have made a pact to go against these evil creatures that are coming to fight them all, and they've just basically been destroying them, and nobody can figure out why and how. And they have made this alliance by having like the last man standing take on an orc princess who is also a healer, and she has been working with them, and one of their guys was kidnapped by the bad guys, like when he was sent out on a mission, and she realizes where he may be because she can sense it because she's killed him before. And in this issue, they go and she's like, hey, this is a trap and everybody's gonna die. And the guy in charge is like, I don't care, like, I think we have to say we never leave anybody behind, we go back for him. And they get in this huge fight about it, and you just have this great conversation about the morality of things. And their relationship that G. Willow Wilson has built is so incredible. And like, you already are at the point where just like the looks that are drawn by Chris Wildgoose like just really showcase so much emotion between them. And at the end of this issue, I was yelling at the book, because I feel like I've read a full novel, and I've like got to the end of that first book, and I know that book 2 like sequel, like hatred, like this issue is like the start of that. Like, if you're a young adult reader, you know that like book 2 is always like the one where you're like going to throw the book across the room because they've got to set you up for the book 3 like coming back and being amazing. And this is where I'm at with this. I was at the like, I want to throw the book across the room and be like, why don't y'all just have a conversation? Like, why are we doing this? I'm so upset about it. I'm so invested in these characters. Everybody's been so solidly written. The world was built out. I feel like I could draw you the map if I needed to of this world already. I want these two to live this perfect happy life. I want our queen, like our queen to be essentially that has been fighting against the older generations, the old guard. I want her to have all the power in the world. I want everything to work out in this book, and nothing is, and it's wonderful and amazing. And G. Willow Wilson is such a good writer, and everybody should be reading this. They called it Hot Orc Summer when it launched last summer, and I was like, I don't know that it needs to be that, like, because I was like, I don't know if that's what this is gonna be, like, that's weird, like, it feels like it's, like, trying to be sexy, like orcs, But, like, now I'm like, I totally get it because this book is just so emotionally drawn and I just want to, like, I want everybody to be happy. But I want everybody to read that book too, which means you're not because it's sad. But it's also amazing. So read it because it's great. All right. Dozen picks of the week. I'm going to take another drink.
I was going to say you should show all of those.
Oh, yeah. We could totally show this. Okay, so if you guys didn't see the beginning of the show, there you go. 97 comic books we just talked about. 97 small press and indie books that you should read. I read them all in like 36 hours, so, you know, get reading. Catch up, everybody. This is your to be read pile right here. Oh my gosh.
And I took 3 of them, so.
Oh yeah, so really that's 94 because Matt already stole 3 of them. All right, we've got some other books that were in stock this week. I'm not going to tell you all about them, and I am going to fly through them. This is more of your, like, big 2 stuff and things like that. Walking Dead Deluxe is still coming out every week to get you those color versions of The Walking Dead. This is issue 80. We don't have too many more to go. Thanos, issue 2 from Marvel out this week. Savage Red Sonja, issue 3. I know everybody's been really loving what they've been doing with Red Sonja recently. Shazam, talk about a fan favorite. Issue 7 is out, and I get more and more subscribers to this book every issue. Marvel Zombies, issue 4. These are anthologies. This is the Black, White, and Blood series for Marvel Zombies. You can jump in anywhere, anytime, and just find something that's great for you. Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville, issue 5. The Critical Role has a new book with Tales of Exandria Artagon. This is issue 1 for that. For all you Critical Role fans. Conan the Barbarian, issue 6, out now. Planet of the Apes, new series out. We've got Beware the Planet of the Apes, issue 1, and there is a cool Scotty Young cover that if you didn't grab it, you should hunt that one down this week. Titans, Beast World, Tour Atlantis, back out again this year. On a tour of all the different places for the Beast World right now. Venom, issue 29, out this week. Superman 78, The Metal Curtain. This is continuing your Superman 78 movie storyline, much like the Batman 89 does for Batman. Birds of Prey, issue 5, with that new team that I love. So good. Captain America, issue 5. This is the J. Michael Straczynski Captain America run. Moon Knight, Vengeance of Moon Knight, issue 1. We saw the death of Moon Knight. We don't know. We'll call it Death of Moon Knight in quotes. Last month, we launched this month with Vengeance of Moon Knight is still Jed McKay on the book. So we've had some cool covers for that. Kneel Before Zod came out this week, and we have this cool foil-y cover. We have some trade paperbacks that are out this week. We've got Nature's Labyrinth, the complete story from Mad Cave. I love this. This is like a bunch of people being selected to go on an island and participate in like a battle royale, Hunger Games kind of situation. Really great. You should check it out if you didn't. Can you like zoom in on that with all the line art that this book has? It's insane. All of the, like, every issue has like this level of detail in it. Like it's crazy. Yeah, you gotta check it out because there's some crazy twists and turns that come out of this story. You're not gonna want to miss it. Clobberin' Time. This was a fun one for all ages. I had so many kids that were really big into this story, Hulk and Thing coming together. Mini-series, the whole thing's in there. The Quarry. This is was a Scout nonstop, so issue 1 came out, and now you get the whole thing collected as a graphic novel, essentially. And it is a tragically beautiful story about a boy whose brother and his girlfriend go out to a quarry to go swimming, and the brother never comes home. And this is just like one day in the life of the younger brother experiencing life with the girlfriend, and just like them trying to deal with heartache in life and just moving on. Click, Click, Boom. This is the entire story about Sprout, who is an assassin who can't speak, and she communicates exclusively through Polaroid pictures, and her grandfather is killed, and she is trying to get her vengeance, and she teams up with a random girl that is a podcaster that's kind of really into the story, and they become friends and develop a beautiful relationship. The Neighbors, also the whole story. Great horror story that's got those like slow moving kind of sense to it. A couple moves to their family to a new town, and nothing ever really works out in horror stories when people move to new places. And this one is one of those what lies beneath is almost more terrifying than what lies beside kind of situation. The Seasons Have Teeth, also the full story. This is a beautiful story about a man who was supposed to be a conflict, like war photographer, never actually lived up to the expectations of it, and now that he's lost his wife, he feels like he needs to go out and do the thing that he was meant to do all along, and he's trying to do that in the form of photographing all of the seasons, but in this world, the seasons are kaiju monsters, and so he has to approach those beautiful kaijus and also face himself. If you didn't read this is another one of those where I was like, I knew going into it, I was like, I'm signing up to cry, and I'm ready for that experience. And then laugh about it afterwards. Grab Queen of Swords. This is a spin-off of the Barbaric World. This is the whole of Queen of Swords in here. You don't have to read Barbaric to read this. You just need to pick up this. A bunch of women being completely, totally awesome, kicking butt all over the place with some talking weapons. What else do you need? I don't know. It's probably all in this book. There you go. That is over 100 books now that we just talked about. So congratulations. That's 3 weeks worth of comics. If anybody tells you that there's nothing going on in comics right now, you know that they're making stuff up, because I just told you about 97 comics that were definitely worth picking up and reading. So go out to a store and grab them. If you don't like single issues, grab them in collected form, because there's obviously great trade paperbacks and hardcovers floating around as well right now, original graphic novels. There are so many books worth reading. I just read them all. Now it's your turn. So go out and grab some books. Don't forget, we've got some things going on. We'll be at the grand opening of the Lakewood Ranch Library on the 12th and the 13th, Friday and Saturday next week. And then next Sunday, we have Max Fuchs here to sign. He is the artist of Killmore from IDW. It is a fantastic book. Murder, mystery, serial killers. It's all great. He'll be signing copies. He'll also be doing sketches for you. So come on out and meet him Saturday the 14th. We've been drinking, once again, Toro. It's been fantastic. It's an award-winning wine for a reason. We loved it. It was fantastic. Shout out to everybody that came and shopped with us during the Christmas season, came out for all of our events. We loved having you. Happy New Year, Bat Fam. It's going to be a great one filled with wonderful comics. I had a great time. Hope you did too. Until I see you again, happy reading.